Yo, what up?
Young and they're just...
That video was stupid. All these podcasters get on absolute fucktards. What is this? That one might be good. Fucking Pierce Morgan.
I cannot believe what I'm about to tell you. This is one of the most outrageous bits of news that I think I have ever presented to my audience. And in a way, I'm ashamed, even though it has nothing to do with me. I'm ashamed because of what is happening in this country. Remember the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, the Obama nuclear deal, which Trump...
Here we fucking go. The reason that deal was reneged upon when the Trump administration came into power is because that nuclear deal didn't put enough restrictions on Iran. So, they were able to build towards producing nuclear weapons. It also lifted a number of sanctions that were put on place against Iran. And they were still doing all these fucking terror attacks and supporting, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis. So yeah, Trump got rid of that stupid fucking deal because it didn't give anyone enough security guarantees. These left-wing commentators are just fucking retarded. Forgot my notification to tell her that Benny Morse vid was really good. Yeah, we'll react to that. Thanks for the donation, dude.
said is terrible.
So he's just gonna whine and complain, and yeah, they're gonna send the Marines in.
Negotiations.
Tito, you said there's many points of agreement with Iran right now.
Many.
What, can you give us a
Many, like 15 points. 15 points.
Iran has said yes.
Well, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. That's number one. That's number 1, 2, and 3. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
They said yes to that?
They've agreed to that.
All right. Now, Iran says that this is completely made up. But after...
Gee, okay. Iran doesn't have any clear consolidated leadership because all of these people are fucking dead. They're also fucking liars. They're Islamic jihadist, like, terrorist whack jobs. So, like, why is he saying this as if, like, oh, well, that's not what Iran said? Who in Iran? Like, these people are brain dead.
Seeing this, I did a little bit of research into what the administration is saying are the negotiating points and the deal points. And the more and more deeply I looked at what was on the table, I realized Trump seems to be positioning himself to accept more or less the terms of the original Iran nuclear deal that
No, he's not.
was signed by Barack Obama when he was
No, he's not.
president.
So he doesn't know anything about the fucking nuclear deal. Big surprise. So his whole thesis here is, Trump is basically going to war and creating all these problems just to have the same nuclear deal. Yeah, that's not what's happening. So, dumb, delusional, lefty, brain rot, commie fucking horseshit. What a surprise.
Benny Morris, my esteemed debate partner. Thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me. I know
My
that you
pleasure, my pleasure.
just flew around and you're tired, so I super appreciate the opportunity to chat with you once more. Before I dive into serious stuff, I'm curious, who, in your opinion, is the most interesting person in Israeli history, like from 1880 onwards?
Well, there's lots of interesting figures. This is probably true about the Zionist movement, or it may be true about lots of nationalist revolutions or nationalist movements. But Ben Gurion is certainly a very interesting figure, and certainly the central figure in Zionist history following Herzl.
You think he's the most interesting?
I think so, yeah. I think he's probably the most interesting character, yeah.
Okay, just curious. And all the random people I read about, Menachem Begin?
Begin's also interesting.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
as I said, there's a lot of interesting
Very
characters
goofy, yeah.
around, yeah.
Okay, I was curious. Okay,
Yeah.
that was your softball. Something that we spoke about before we did our debate, I was asking you questions back and forth, make sure I wasn't missing anything, and you kind of offhandedly mentioned something that I thought was really interesting, that Arab society tends to engage in a lot of oral history. They kind of like they tell stories, they pass along.
It's not a matter of engaged. The Arabs do not have the Arabs in general don't have a tradition of historiography a la the West. If they started putting things down in documents, it's probably under the influence of the imperial overlords, the French and the British, who ruled over much of the Arab world in the 20th century, even slightly earlier. But they do have a strong tradition of strong oral tradition, and this certainly applies to the Palestinians, who had no state, no state bureaucracies, therefore did not produce archival material. So among the Palestinians, their core historical record is oral.
One thing that you told me that is easy to compare some of the stories that you've heard to the actual archive stuff from Israel, that the stories actually tend to line up pretty well with what happened.
I'm not saying that they tend to line up, but I have found interviews and oral.
It's a shame to see David Pacman become such a hack.
He was always a bit of a hack, but now it's just fucking horrendous. All these left-wing political commentators have become completely and utterly brain-rotted. Thanks for the donation, though, Dono.
Oral history corresponding to things I found in documents, more than I expected initially. So that in some way even surprised me. You didn't find the detail you find in documentation. The dates are wrong, the numbers are wrong. There's all sorts of things wrong, but sometimes the core story matches what you found in Israeli records about the same event.
Okay.
Jujutsu Kaisen Sendai Colony episode dropping tomorrow. I was trying to watch Jujutsu Kaisen. That first season is horrendous. Just god-awful, terrible, horrendous horseshit. It's so boring. So remarkably boring.
I'm curious on a personal level, when you're a historian and you want to do research and you talk about like going to National Archives, can you just like show up to these places and say, give me a copy of this? Or do you have to show like your historian license, or what is that process like?
Most in the West, most archives are open to anybody, the public. The people who go normally are historians or students of history, but so they basically would like to see who you are. They usually issue an ID card for you for the use in that particular archive, and from then on you just go through catalogs of documentation and order files. That's how it works.
Do you think that having a strong interpretation of a lot of the source material, do you think that requires you to be a native speaker? Or do you think that it's okay to get stuff secondhand? Do you think there's significant differences in translation?
You should be.
Durian Rider, 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 Durian Rider.
Yes, that is a person. Thanks for the donation, Durian Rider.
I agree. And people wonder why you believe in eugenics.
That would help. Like, people can't even fucking believe. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
have access to and knowledge of the language in which the documents are written. So English, Hebrew. The problem with Arabic is that the Arab world, they're all dictatorships. All Arab states are dictatorships, authoritarian states which do not open their archives, not to their own people, not to foreigners. Certainly about 1948, you won't find Egyptian, Jordanian, Syrian archives, documentation open. So in that sense, access to Arab documentation is not really of much use concerning the periods I dealt with. Whereas French, English, Hebrew are languages which are required if you want to study things in which Israelis, Britons, Americans, etc., Frenchmen in some way participated as diplomats, as intelligence agents, as fighters, as officials, and so on.
I'm curious, I think it's accurate to say that you're most known for your history around like 48 and documenting stuff that's happened kind of like in that time period. Is there a particular archive that you would really want access to, like a question that you have about a particular battle, a particular massacre?
Well, the archives relating to 48, to the War of 48, as to, in fact, other wars, though they're not all open. There's a 30-year rule or a 50-year rule. The IDF archive is crucial.
Oh, I didn't even mean for Israel. I meant like if you could have access to like an Egyptian archive.
Oh,
or a
yes,
Syrian
I'd love to see the official Egyptian state archives, and I'd like to see the Jordanian court archive, the Jordanian Arab Legion archive, but all of these are closed.
Is there a particular, as you study, is there some question that you kind of like come close to that you just need like the final, yeah?
The major question which I would hope to find answers to in Arab archives would be Arab intentions, if I'm talking about the 48 war, Arab objectives, intentions in that war. Why did the Jordanians invade? What did the brigade and battalion commanders think their military objectives or political targets were? The same applies to the Egyptian government, the Syrian government, the Iraqi government. What did they actually go to war for? This is something which is crucial to understanding the war, because there's various sides in the war.
Well, we already know the answer. They hate Jews.
And their objectives are crucial. But the answers to these questions about the Arab states' intentions in these wars, or in the 48 war certainly, one has to find answers in Israeli archives.
Who would I cast as the Punisher? Or who would I cast as She-Punisher? I have no idea. They should make me the Punisher.
Israeli intelligence documentation, American, British, French diplomatic documentation, etc., but not first-hand from Arabs, because the Arab archives are closed. That's the problem.
Do you think that?
So that's a certain black hole in any historiography of 48.
Do you think it'd be interesting to know those same intentions for like 56 and 67, or do you think it's more kind of because everything's more?
No. The same would apply to 67. What was Nasser's objectives in the various steps he took before the war broke out, and on the 5th of June 1967? What was his intentions when he sent his troops into Sinai, when he closed the Straits of Tiran, in the days preceding Israel's preemptive assault on Egypt? Certainly, it would be interesting. It certainly would be interesting to know King Hussein's assessments and intentions before Jordan entered the war and began shelling Jerusalem and other parts of Israel, which prompted Israel to attack East Jerusalem and the West Bank on the 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th of June 67.
In the West, truly, we talk about like one or two historical events because nobody really knows anything about the things they feel strongly about, but it is what it is. In the West, obviously, the Nakba is the only thing that's spoken about for 48. Some people have been a little bit more mentioned, like Plan Dalet, Plan D. Can you give a brief summary or idea of this idea that in 48, there was this 10-year plan that the Jews had always had from Plan Dalet when they started making it, that they wanted to expel every single Arab? And
why do these SJWs defend Arabs so much, VG?
I think it has something to do with them being retarded. Pretty sure that's what it is. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
Total nonsense. There was no plan to expel the Arabs, nothing dating back 10 years at all. Things which happened in Plan D is from March 48. It's not from 10 years back. It was the Haganah's plan to defend the Jewish state against the impending Arab invasion, which was expected the moment the British left, which was in mid-May. And the Arabs, in fact, invaded. The Arab states, the armies of Jordan, Syria, Egypt, and Iraq invaded on the 15th of May. And that was expected, and the Haganah planned for it. The Jewish, main Jewish defense organization planned for it in Plan Dalet, which was signed and sealed on the 10th of March, 1948. It's well to remember, I think, when talking about 48, that 48 was a war. It wasn't Arabs today and their propaganda and their supporters in the West who know nothing about the war itself. It's best to remember that there was a war in 1948, not just an expulsion. And the Arabs, Palestinian Arabs, began it in December 1947 by shooting at the Jews, 1947, which snowballed into a full-scale civil war between the Jewish and Arab communities in Palestine, the land of Israel.
Or it could just be that they hate white people.
Well, that goes hand in hand with being retarded. But thanks for the donation, Dodo.
And when the Palestinian Arabs lost their civil war against the Jewish community in Palestine, the Arab states invaded the day after the Jews declared statehood. On the 14th of May, the Jews declared statehood. On the 15th, the Arab states' armies invaded Palestine. In the course of that war, a lot of Arabs were uprooted from their homes and became refugees. A few of them were expelled. Most of them simply fled, but then weren't allowed back by Israel to the territory of the newborn state of Israel and the areas which they had captured in the course of the war, in addition to the states' territories as designated by the UN partition resolution of November 47.
You're pretty familiar with the partition?
I've heard about it.
You've heard about it. Okay, that's good. I have as well. Okay, actually, I have a few pretty specific questions about the partition. I'm curious. Is there any truth to the idea that when the land was offered, when that split happened, that the Jews were given all of the arable land, or that the Palestinians were ripped off, or that the Jews were given land that was only made arable by them and cultivating it through the 20s and 30s? Or
This is a complicated question.
Okay, I understand,
It's a simple, firstly, the partition proposal by the UN General Assembly from 29 November 47 allocated to the Jews 55% of the landmass, what was called Palestine, from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean, 55%. And the Arabs of Palestine were allocated something like 43% or something of that landmass. 55% the Jews were allocated was mostly desert. Over half of it, 60% of it, was desert. It wasn't arable, it was really desert, and to this day remains basically a wasteland, even though there are oases there. The south of Palestine, the south of the land of Israel, is mostly desert, and that was the bulk of what was given to the Jews. It's true that the Jews in the northern areas, which were allocated for Jewish statehood, the Jezreel Valley, some of the northern coastal plain, that was highly, and it's part of the Jordan Valley, that was highly cultivable and arable and fertile, etc. The Arabs were given what's today called the West Bank, or an enlarged West Bank, some of which they lost in the 48 war, but basically the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip and the southern coastal plain, which was also very arable, very fertile land. So it wasn't divided into arable and non-arable, though I suppose the coastal plain after being developed and agriculturally by the Jews became very fertile, whereas the hill country, which has olives and other things, but doesn't have as much vegetation and water as the coastal plain, and that was in Arab hands. But that's where the bulk of the Arab population was concentrated, in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Galilee hills, the hills of Galilee. The Arabs maintained, and here
this is like some of the most brain rotted horseshit I've heard too. Like, if you look into it, they I've heard that argument all the time, like, oh, Jews got so much land, what the fuck? If you look at most of the fucking land, it's desert, nobody lives there. They weren't living there then, and they're not even living there now. So it's just propaganda, brain rotted, stupid fucking horseshit. None of the fucking Arabs were living in that, like, southern Israel desert fucking location. If you look at like population maps, they were more in Gaza, West Bank, or more to the north. That's where everyone was living.
There's something in what they said, that the Jews, who were represented a third of the population of Palestine, something like 650,000 people, were given 55% of the land, and the Arabs, who were two-thirds of the population of Palestine, were given only 43%. And that, they said, was a certain injustice. But this was balanced out, as I think, and as the Jews understood, by the fact that half or more than half the land the Jews were being given was wasteland, and that the land being given to the Jews, as the United Nations members understood, was destined not just for the 650,000 Jews who lived there, but for the ingathering of the exiles, Jews from abroad, survivors of the Holocaust, survivors, or whatever you want to call them, from the Arab states, the Jews who lived in Arab states. So the Jews had to be given more land so they would have a place to settle them.
And I think there were 450 or 500,000 some Arabs that lived on what would have been partition for the Jews as well, right? It was a size.
Yes, yes. The area which the Jews were being offered or earmarked for Jewish statehood in the partition plan was to have something like 500,000 Jews or 550,000 Jews. Another 100,000 Jews lived in Jerusalem, which was supposed to be international territory. But 550,000 Jews lived in the territory earmarked for Jewish statehood, alongside more than 400,000 Arabs. 450,000, maybe even 490,000, depended how many Bedouins were actually there. Nobody knew the number. Sure. So it's 400,000 plus. So in fact, the proportions were probably 60% Jewish, 40% Arab in the area designated for Jewish statehood by the United Nations partition plan. Had the Arabs accepted it, there would have been no war.
Yeah.
There would have been no uprooting of Arabs in the course of a war. And the Jewish state would have had to manage with a very, very large Arab minority, except the Jews, in accepting the plan, believed that a lot of Jews would be pouring into the country from the survivors of the Holocaust and others, which would then increase the Jewish proportion of the population in the Jewish state.
This is like a quick question, I guess, personal curiosity.
I was just eating apples. Nothing particularly interesting.
Because people argue a lot about the origins of the Six-Day War, or the inciting moments, I guess. Do you think that Nasser wanted that war at that time, or do you think it was brinksmanship, that he was just speaking
He
loud?
was playing brinksmanship, and I think he made a mistake. I don't think he wanted a war. I don't think he properly assessed whether his army was strong enough to fight off the Israelis. He never made a proper intelligent calculus of what he was doing. But he thought that he could get away with making political points, winning political advantage by remilitarizing the Sinai Peninsula, by blocking Israel off from the Straits of Tiran, in other words, closing Israel's southern outlet of Eilat to freedom of navigation, etc., by closing the straits. He thought he would gain these things against Israel, and Israel...
Yeah, I like vegetables. I really like broccoli. Broccoli's awesome. Why no workout streams? Because I'm just taking a break from training. I got really banged up.
Wouldn't respond with a war. He didn't think Israel would respond, especially
I will start training again in a
alliances
few
with
days.
Jordan and Iraq and Syria going into the war. He thought, well, the Israelis would be deterred by such a surrounding alliance of Arab states under his control, so he felt. And he made a mistake. Israel couldn't allow the remilitarization of the Sinai Peninsula, something agreed to by the international community in Egypt in 1957 at the end of the 56 war, after the 56 war, and it couldn't agree to the loss of freedom of navigation from its southern port, which connects Israel to Asia and Africa, and the aircraft, incidentally. They also blocked off the air routes to South Africa, to Africa and Asia. Israel couldn't agree to this, and beyond that, there was, of course, the threat. Once Egyptian divisions were pushed into Sinai, which is what he did, there was the threat that they would attack Israel, these divisions. So Israel couldn't leave it the chance to. Maybe Nasser would attack, maybe he wouldn't attack. Israel had to move. It had no choice, especially if the Egyptians massed 5 divisions in Sinai as they did. Israel would have to mobilize. It mobilizes, and then what do? If your economy is shut down by the mobilization of hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and you just leave them in the desert waiting for the Egyptians to do something or not do something, it was an untenable situation which Nasser forced Israel into, forcing it to go to war.
Oh, and then also when you talk about the deployment of the military across the Sinai, that also included the expulsion of the UN.
Yes, the UN force,
well.
the UN was ejected. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Nasser also, of course, called for the ejection of the UN buffer military force, which was between the Israelis and the Egyptians on the Egyptian side of the Sinai-Israel border.
Do you think, I've heard some people blame that war on the faulty Soviet Union intelligence reports?
Well, either they were faulty or they were deliberately misleading. Nobody knows why exactly the Soviets, in the 2 weeks or so before the war broke out, 3 weeks before the war broke out, why the Soviets told the Egyptians and the Syrians that the Israelis were massing for attack against Syria. Syria was the client state of the Soviet Union in the region, and the Soviets saw themselves as protectors of Syria. The belief is among historians that the Soviets sent this incorrect message to Egypt and to Syria, mainly to get the Egyptians to reinforce their commitment to defend Syria. In other words, they would tell the Egyptians the Israelis about to attack Syria. Syria is Egypt's ally. Egypt must commit to protecting Syria if the Israelis invade. And here we are showing the Egyptians telling the Egyptians the Israelis are...
Dude, it's funny how, like, so many different countries and, different actors have just all been trying to conspire against Israel and shit, and they just all fail spectacularly. It's actually hilarious. I don't know if my chest hair's gotten... I don't know, a little more out of control or something, but my chest is being super itchy.
They're about to attack Syria. Israel said this is all nonsense when they were told by the United Nations, whoever, that the Soviets are claiming that Israel is massing troops to attack Syria. Israel said to the Russian ambassador, go visit the border between Israel and Syria, see if Israel has actually mobilized and massed troops to attack Syria. The Russian ambassador declined to go, and the United Nations said there is no proof.
I honestly hate how SJWs think people of other cultures can do no wrong when so many of these other cultures are just retarded.
Yep. There are many, many, many inferior cultures to our own. But thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Proof at all, no evidence that Israel was massing troops there, but this wasn't sufficient for Egypt. Egypt sent its divisions into Sinai, supposedly on the basis of belief in this misinformation by the Moscow.
Is there any truth to the idea that part of what empowered Jordan to attack or encouraged them to attack through the West Bank into Israel in '67 was because Nasser lied about the planes coming back to...
Well, this is certain. Israel attacked the Egyptian troops in Sinai and Egyptian air bases in Sinai and Egypt proper on the morning of the 5th of June. The Egyptians told the Jordanians that the Egyptian Air Force, was attacking Israel's bases, and that the Egyptians were busy attacking the Negev as well with ground troops. Hussein bought it. Apparently, he believed what the Egyptians were telling him and felt that he had no choice but to join the war. Otherwise, he would be considered in the street, by the Arab street, a traitor to the Arab cause. He must join an Arab assault, Egyptian assault on Israel. So he started shelling Israeli territory on the morning, about 10 o'clock on the morning of June 6. Not knowing that Israel had actually attacked the Egyptians and was busy destroying the Egyptian Air Force. In fact, something which occurred within 3 hours. From 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock, there was really no Egyptian Air Force after that. But he didn't do that, so he started shelling Israel, machine gunning Israeli positions in Jerusalem and further inside Israel. And Israel told the Jordanians already at 8 o'clock, don't join the war, we will not attack you. And Israel said it again after the Jordanians started shooting, and again the Jordanians didn't pay any attention, and that resulted in Israel attacking the Jordanians in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank, and eventually conquering East Jerusalem and the West Bank and defeating the Jordanian army in Jordan. Another fact which should be taken into account, and
They literally could have just left it all alone, and they just thought they could handle the smoke.
apparently is important,
Fucking
is
hilarious.
that the Jordanians, in signing their pact, I think it was on the 30th of May 1967, a few days before the war broke out, the Jordanians signed a pact with Egypt subordinating their army to the Egyptian military control. So he said later, I had no choice but to join the war because my army was actually under Egyptian control. Whether it was fully under Egyptian control or not is not clear, but that's what formally it was. Sure. And he did start shooting, and this led to Israel's conquest, unfortunately, of the West Bank, in my view, which has resulted in much of the problems we have today.
Although I can sympathize that for Hussein, that if Egypt and Syria would have won that war and the Jordanian army would have set out, all of his legitimacy, which I think was already...
He would have lost legitimacy because everybody suspected him in the Arab world of secretly parleying with the Israelis. There was intelligence exchanges, there was Jordanian, Hussein visited Israel a number of times, secret negotiations, secret talks. So they always suspected, and this was a result partly of Abdullah, his grandfather's dealings with the Zionists and with Israel pre-48 and in 1948 itself. Even though Jordan went to war against Israel in 1948, there was a lot of goodwill between the Israeli authorities, the Jewish agency, and the Israeli government and the Jordanians, Abdullah. He didn't want war with the Jews, but he sort of felt forced into it, partly the same as Hussein, because he was part of an Arab coalition and felt that he would be considered a traitor if he stood.
Yeah, it's funny the Uncle Tom kind of mindset they have, where they all have to go after Israel because they're afraid of being like the Uncle Tom of the Arab Muslim world.
Side.
And he was assassinated for that, essentially.
And he was assassinated for that and other things, but he was assassinated by a Palestinian gunman 3 years after the war, partly on the basis of allegations that he was secretly parleying with the Jews, which is true, of course. Yes.
It seems kind of frustrating that a lot of the, I feel like a lot of the conflict sometimes in this area is brinksmanship. Do you think there's any truth? These are just random questions, sorry, because I hear somebody talking about. Do you think there's any truth to the idea that there had been, so Israel had this reprisal policy, essentially, that if you do anything, if a bus gets hit by a mine, we're going to come back over and destroy.
Well, usually the reprisal policy was that a series of things happened. That is, they attacked a bus, they attacked some woman in her kitchen, they did a number of things, and then Israel said enough, and we send in a reprisal and attack. That's usually how it happened. It wasn't usually a tit for tat, one-to-one basis.
But do you think there's any truth to the idea that part of the reason why Egypt was expelling troops from the Sinai and mobilizing was because the Jordanian king, Hussein, was calling them out for doing nothing after Israel reprisals into the West Bank?
There was, there was a particular reprisal, not a series or a policy, but in 1966, after a few terrorist incidents in which terrorists coming out of the West Bank attacked Israeli military, maybe also civilian targets, killing a few Israelis. Israel eventually launched a large-scale assault on Jordanian military positions in a village called Samua in the southern West Bank, south of Hebron. And I think Israel killed more Jordanian soldiers in that attack than had been expected. And this was a big blow to Jordan. And the Jordanians accused the Egyptians, or at least the Jordanian press or Arab press, of the Egyptians didn't do anything about it. They hid behind the United Nations skirts. This was the phrase.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's one of the things which probably motivated Nasser a few months later, in May 1967, to throw the United Nations force out of the Israel-Egyptian border. The buffer force, which separated the Israelis from the Egyptians, which was one of the triggers to the 67 war. So in some way, the attack on Samoa, or if you like, the terrorist attacks which preceded the Israeli reprisal in Samoa, helped to launch the 67 war.
Something that we spoke to a Dr. Mordecai Kadar, and he has some very interesting opinions about the Middle East. Do you think there's any truth to the idea that the only successful countries that have emerged are basically ones that are modeled around these strong families that are essentially ruling these places, that the monarchs, the emirates, that when you try to make it like a state-based thing that doesn't have this kind of strong family monarch structure, that a state kind of falls apart, and that this might resemble Palestinian families having a lot of influence and strength, and then trying to thrust upon them like the Palestinian Authority isn't successful. Yeah, do you have any
I'm not an expert on Arab sociology, but he has a point in that we're not talking so much about families as tribes.
Yeah.
Are you on 60 milligrams tea per day? What does it work out to being? Yeah, it's 62.5 milligrams. Currently I'm not on growth hormone. I've only been taking it on training days. So I'm not training right now. So I'm not currently taking growth hormone. Oh.
You know why the fuck are these people so afraid of being called racist by people whom they don't even know if they call out Palestine simply for what it is?
Yeah, it's pretty cowardly and pathetic. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. 21st Only Tellers of Destiny on Discord. Did you jerk off to Pat's nudes after you finished the stream last night? She hasn't sent me any nudes. Some, like, mildly erotic photos, but no nudes. No Destiny on Discord. Thanks for the donation, though, 21st.
He has a point that the more solid and apparently also successful to this day Arab states, the ones in Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Kuwait, and even Jordan, are based on particular tribes or tribal alliances, meaning basically Bedouin tribes. And the more, if you like, modern Arab states, which have a hodgepodge of tribes, but also non-tribal urban populations like Egypt, Syria, and Iraq, are less stable, less successful. That's been the history of the place. So there's something in what he's saying, obviously, but it also depends on which region you're talking about. In a place like Egypt or Iraq, I don't think the tribal thing would work as well. There was certain tribalism also in Iraq, obviously, but it doesn't work as well because they're more heterogeneous states. You know, Shiites, Kurds in Iraq, Sunnis, etc. Whereas in Jordan, the tribes are all Sunni, and there are only a certain number of tribes which establish.
Give me 1 second. Pat sent me a voice message.
established the state of Jordan.
No, Pat is not
under
AI.
Abdullah's, aegis, basically. And the same applies to Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and Kuwait. They had sparser populations and limited numbers of tribes which were able to work together ultimately.
Do you think that I have a lot of far-right fans, very pro-Zionist fans that watch me now after all my
You
Israel
call them
stuff.
far-right?
Well, I shouldn't do that. I'm sorry. No.
How about liberal?
Liberal, sure. Well, right. It feels like you're far left and far right here.
Yeah, I'm
You're
joking.
just talking-
I'm joking.
yeah. One question, because I feel like we would disagree on this a ton, or that I didn't dig into this enough in my interview the first time. My impression is that this conflict feels like it's 85% driven by these like geographic tensions, Jews coming into the Middle East, and then these types of arguments basically over land, these fightings over land. And I feel like religion is like bubbling under the surface like 15% of a driver. And they said that you would feel that the religious aspect is far more important than that.
Who said that?
Fans not far right, very Zionist ones that say Benny Morris says that religion is actually a huge deal here in the early. I feel like as of 2000 and onwards, especially with Hamas, that religion is starting to become more important with this Islamist idea. But prior to that, it feels more geographical.
I think you're underrating the importance of religion here.
It's all religious. Where like, how many times has he gone to Israel and like even the Palestinians have told him it's all religious fucking bullshit.
Okay.
Firstly, the Hamas is the most popular party in the Palestinian world.
The whole basis for this thing is religious. Like, I don't know why that's so hard for like this fucking idiot to understand. It's probably the lefty brain rot crap where he has to cope. Oh, Muslims aren't crazy or anything. No, they are. That's the whole reason they're fucking doing this.
They won the elections, the only general elections the Palestinians held, I think it was in 2006.
Sure. Just to reiterate, to be clear, from 2000 and onwards, I agree that the religious part has become very important. But a lot of the...
But no, there was a lot of religious input also in the conflict in previous decades. But it's true that it's gone up and down, the religious input as a motivating factor in the conflict. In 1929, for example, the major set of riots by Palestinian Arabs against Jews in Palestine, in which there was the famous Hebron massacre, the rallying cry of the Palestinians was the danger to Al-Aqsa, the same rallying cry which the Hamas has used on October 7th in 2023. So
Can I ask a
well,
question?
let me add to that.
Yeah,
Religion, as Arab politicians have understood, certainly the Hamas has understood, religion plays an enormous part in Palestinian Arab life, probably in Arab life in general. They're not Norwegians, they're not Scandinavians. Religion is not unimportant to them. It's central to their identity, Islam. And but in Palestine, they understood, the leaders of the Palestinian national movement, especially Haj Amin al-Husseini, the major leader in the 30s and 40s of the Palestinian national cause, who was also a cleric, incidentally. He understood that you won't get the Palestinian masses, the urban masses or the rural masses onto the streets against the Jews if you talk about Palestinian statehood or maybe a Zionist threat of a Jewish state being... you will get them onto the street if you start saying they're about to attack and destroy your sacred sites, your sacred Islamic religious sites. And that's how it worked in 29. The jihadist element in 48, which most historians neglected to look at, I think was important also as a rallying cry in the Arab world in sending the various Arab armies to Palestine on the 15th of May 1948 in the Pan-Arab invasion. Jihadism was very important. We know that the ulama of Al-Aqsa, of Al-Azhar University, which is the major university of Egypt and the most important, the most oldest university in the Arab world, and its theologians, the ulama of Al-Azhar, are seen as the respected theological determinants of God's will, if you like, or what's right for Islam in the Sunni Arab world, which is the majority Muslim world. They, on the 1st of December, announced jihad, December 1947, as the civil war began in Palestine. They called for a worldwide Muslim jihad against the emergent Jewish state, and reiterated this again in April 48 and then again in December 48. In other words, to get the Arab states to actually invade. So jihadism was there in the background.
Yeah.
We know that King Farouk told Western diplomats one of the reasons that Egypt invaded Palestine, Israel, in the 48 war was that he was afraid of the street, the Muslim street, and the Muslim reaction against the Zionist enterprise, and that he had to abide by what the people, meaning the Muslim people, wanted him to do. So we know it's important, but it's true that it's gone up and down as an element in the conflict, as a motivating element on the Arab side over the decades.
I guess I feel like there are some
And
aspects...
now it's certainly at the forefront of the Arab attack on Israel.
One of the confusing things in sorting through the history here is people say things, and then people mean things, and then people do things, and sometimes all three of these things are different in terms of what they say, what they want, and what they actually do. And I guess if somebody were to tell me, for instance, or this is why I feel this way about this, if somebody were to tell me that Zionism or a desire for Jews to have a country and a home in the Middle East was really important to Jewish people, I would see what the leaders are saying, then I would see what Israel's doing, and then I would see all of the Jews that, made Aliyah to Israel. I was like, yeah, that seems to be true. I guess one of the interesting things is I always hear these speeches by Nasser, and he talks about pan-Arabism, and we're all together, and then I look at how all of these countries are constantly f***ing each other over and fighting with each other, and then I look at there were the calls to global jihad, but I feel like, the feeling I have is that in 48, if there was truly a united desire, either of Arabs or of Muslims to destroy Israel, that it would have happened quite easily. That was a feeling that I had, but the inability to mobilize as many troops, the inability to do more than conquer some land,
Arab armies are incompetent, and it's for a wide variety of reasons. They're really bad with any kind of logistics. What they tend to do is, this is this is a Middle Eastern thing in general. They like to buy really expensive military equipment. It's kind of like a luxury item. And they can't really incorporate it well into their overall military strategy, and because of maintenance and acquiring parts, because these are usually foreign-made goods, it's even difficult to maintain and use these things at all. So they do a lot of shit like that, where they just buy very unnecessary, expensive equipment that they can't really fucking use. A lot of the Arab militaries are also... they're not meritocracies. So, you don't become a general or an officer or a commander because you went to school, you got training, you rose up the ranks, you're better than everybody else, and you've actually earned that spot. What ends up happening is, if you're the son of a rich prince or something, you're just given that role, and it's this prestige thing. So none of these people are good at their fucking job. And then in so many of these dictatorships too, just corruption. Everyone's stealing from each other. Everyone's fucking each other over. I'm sure you're going to see plenty of instances of people just stealing money, and then it doesn't go to the right places, or, people are supposed to be doing something and then they say they're going to do it, but they don't, because they're just trying to cover their own ass. So there's a lot of reasons why Arab armies are just completely incompetent, but yeah. Where the fuck did Destiny get that idea? It just seems like he has a fundamental issue with his reasoning skills.
Clavicular hanging out with a lemur.
Chase, get out of here.
My god, bro. Yo, buddy.
He's like, you're not eating fast enough. I'll go for it.
Yo, you need to relax, pal.
Chase, you just ate a whole banana. And
I'd let the lemur shit everywhere.
Chase, chill, bro.
I really like lemurs.
Chase, hold on. Yeah.
I really, really like lemurs. They're one of my favorite animals. Look, they're really smart.
Oh, sure.
You want him to rub more. Says, rub me more. See? They know how to ask for more rubs. Once more. Yeah, there's a lot of different varieties of lemur.
These are some of the largest pollinators of the world, and responsible for pretty much all the fauna.
I like these brown ones.
They're also related to
They're
the
really
black
cool.
and white rough lemur and the second
I want them.
loudest primate.
I want these lemurs. Wow. Wow. Oh, see that? They're making noises. Yeah, lemurs are really cool.
You got a friend in me.
Look at their hands. Yeah, they jump around like this. They jump sideways. It's really funny. And they do this weird thing where they just like hang out and they like open up their arms. They're really weird. Yeah, look at this.
Distant can only be found in Madagascar. In the wild they can live between 15 and 20 years.
Yeah, they're so cool. I really like lemurs. There's a type of lemur that makes its tail really stinky. Yeah, lemurs make their tails stinky, and they have stink fights, where males compete for dominance by making their tails stinkier than another male's tail. And they also use like the stink to attract mates. They're really cool. I like lemurs.
He's gonna start wanting something. Hey, you wanna Is that working? Is it working? Hold on. Love is in the air.
That's a beautiful lemur. I'd love to make friends with a lemur.
Hey, what do you think? What do you think?
Lemurs are nice. They're good. Thanks for the donation, nigga.
Enjoyed your Frank Kick stream. Emo, Kick looks better than you.
Yeah, you told me about that. In a lot of ways, Kick is better than YouTube. I just wish I had like the same kind of level of audience on Kick because, yeah, streaming on Kick is just way more fucking relaxed and laid back, and you can just do more. So, yeah, I might start doing dual streaming, and then hopefully I can build up more of a Kick audience. But thanks for the donation, James.
And feels like it was there, but it was like paying lip service.
Just
almost
rhetoric,
instead
yeah.
of-
I think it's partly true what you're saying. I don't know if the Arab world was capable of mobilizing its potential power to destroy the Jewish state, but I don't think that that desire was missing in 48. In other words, they had a desire, but they didn't have...
Are you red-pilled? Well, I do know that I take pills that have steroids in them. They're white, though. Oxandrolone is... Some of them are yellow. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, the ones I get are white. Oxanabol. I don't know what the fuck that is. I guess it's... Okay, it's probably some UGL stuff. Huh, some of them are yellow, some of them are red. That's interesting. Ones I take are white.
The tools and the ability to mobilize properly in 48. And they were reluctant to go to war, most of the leaders, because they knew they weren't really powerful enough to destroy the Jewish state and feared in any case that the United Nations or the Americans or the Russians would intervene on behalf of the Jews. So this also...
You think they would intervene?
I don't think so, but the Arab world feared that they might.
Gotcha.
Because the Arab world kept telling themselves that the Jews in Washington and the Jews in Moscow are all supporting the governments there and forcing the governments to support the Jewish state. So they saw that there was a strong anti-Semitic feeling in the Arab world that the Jews are very powerful and are supported by the world community, and that the world community would save the Jews in 48, so maybe we shouldn't go to war against the Jews, though they did eventually go to war against the Jews. But there is a problem of a gap between rhetoric and actual actions in the Arab world, and this is true and has been true for many decades. They say certain things, but they don't necessarily mean them.
Oh, dude. I can guarantee you a lot of what's happened is... These different Arab nations hate each other, but they also hate Jews, and they end up playing this like chess game where it's like, let's see if we can get the Jews to fuck over these other people we hate, and then use that as like a reason to like attack Jews later, but also let the Jews fuck over the people we hate.
I used to go on r/vegan, but now it's become another socialist shithole. Same thing happened to r/anti-work and r/fuck cars, but I guess those were always anti-capitalist. It's a shame how all good subreddits get infiltrated by lefty intersectionalist retards.
They're trained to do it, dude. They're all... Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're all trained to just infiltrate and ruin fucking everything. I hate communists like you cannot fucking believe, dude. Thanks for the donation, though, Ben Boy.
It's a shame that all the lemur species are endangered due to habitat loss and poaching for the pet and food trade.
Huh. You know, I wish I was like a fucking crazy massive billionaire like Bill Gates or something. Dude, I would use that money to like literally pay for poachers to be murdered. Like if I heard people were like fucking over lemurs, I'd like get my fucking accountant on it and be like, all right, how much money can I fucking put into paying paramilitary troops to like fucking like shoot the people who are fucking with the lemurs in like Madagascar or something? I'd totally be into that. Lemurs are fucking awesome. Who the fuck, what kind of asshole would ever try to hurt a lemur? Thanks for the donation though, Dodo. I don't understand what the point of this is.
I told you.
So it's literally covering the same story arc as the movie, only it's just longer. Because they're turning it into... Why does he look transgender? Is this a trans kid? Like, am I the only one who sees this? Like... For some reason, this doesn't look like somebody who was born a biological male. You know what I mean? Am I the only one who's seeing that? Literally ran out of ideas. They tried all that other, like, gay horse shit, and nobody wanted to see it, so they're literally just doing the same story, but in... Two is, they can't have as high of a budget as the movies. So, this is basically the movies with a lower budget and longer and more boring. And like what? By the fourth movie, when it's like she's old enough, you also can't. They made I'm assuming that's Hermione Granger. I'm sure there's gonna be people complaining that she's. Wow, that looks really gay and lame.
Fun fact: in Madagascar they serve lemur meat in restaurants. It's especially fucked seeing how lemurs are primates just like monkeys, apes, and us.
I am, if I ever get godlike powers, I'm gonna go to Madagascar. And there will be hell to pay. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. But yeah, hopefully I get the Inuyashiki powers, where the aliens give me some crazy cyborg body. I'm going to annihilate motherfuckers for doing that. Oh. I don't give a fuck. All I hear when people say that is, so I should destroy their culture? Okay. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Fuck.
Historical question, or final question. I know that historical counterfactuals are incredibly difficult.
Damn it, I should probably...
Also...
Yeah, there's no sound. Fuck. Yeah, I just realized.
But of course, SJWs will try to defend them and say, but that's their culture.
Yes, like I said. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Also, it's funny how these woke intersectionals have just replaced religious dogma for social activism. It's okay to not question authority and not be skeptical of claims when it's about whatever current thing they are obsessed about. Never the animal's toe.
Well, yeah. They're just useful idiots for the CCP. That's all it is. These are some of the most immoral dickheads you'll ever fucking come across. Thanks for the donation, though, Ben Boy.
Difficult. I guess another thing that I think of for that jihad, for that pan-Arab identity, do you think that if in 47, in November, December, because my understanding is in the beginning parts of that conflict, whether or not the Yishuv would survive was not as well known, especially as, I think, what it was like the cutoff of Jerusalem, all the shooting, the convoys were being destroyed. If all of the Arab states would have come in at the end of 47, instead of waiting for...
No, they couldn't.
You don't think
the Arab world couldn't have intervened. The Arab states around Palestine couldn't have intervened in the conflict because Britain was still the sovereign of Palestine until May 1948. They would have had to fight the British forces, the Britain. They would have had a frontal clash with Britain had they invaded before the British left Palestine, before the end of the mandate. And that's why they waited. Not because they didn't want to join, but as I say, partly because they were afraid of clashing with the British, and the British made it clear to them, you can't invade so long as we are sovereigns of Palestine.
Okay. Okay. Well, hey, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for answering my questions.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he hasn't gone full retard.
Police have made...
And it's like, the poor Palestinians,
an arrest in connection with the deadly shooting on the QE2 earlier this month.
That shooting claimed the life of a 22-year-old man, and now murder charges have been laid against a teenager arrested in Saskatchewan, with police saying there could be more suspects.
Our Sarah Comedina has been following this story for us. She joins us now from the newsroom. So, Sarah, what do we know about the teenager police have arrested? Scott Carolan, the teen's name is Jimmy Gassner, an 18-year-old, and he has been charged with second-degree murder in the death of 22-year-old Barinder Singh. RCMP say they believe the victim and the suspect did not know each other, and it's still not clear what the motivation was for the shooting. This dashcam video shows moments after the shooting. Singh was killed while on his way to the mountains with friends. 2 others were in the car at the time that they say a truck pulled up alongside them, made a hand gesture that they thought resembled a peace sign, and then moments later opened fire. A bullet struck Singh in the neck and he died. RCMP say Gassner was arrested in Saskatchewan on.
This is after the liberal fucking handgun freeze. It's technically a ban. And all these assault weapon, bans, like, oh, yeah. Really working out, isn't it? Much safer. Fucking retarded. I fucking hate the liberals. And like, the funny thing is, like, these people might not have been dead if they would have been allowed to carry a fucking firearm on them and be able to protect themselves. So the liberal government wants to increase crime, empower criminals, disempower law-abiding citizens so that they're the ones who get fucking shot and killed and victimized. And then if you ever try to defend yourself, they try to lock you in fucking prison. These are the most, like, sick, disgusting, ideological fuckwits you could possibly elect into fucking office. Drives me nuts that people are stupid enough to vote for the fucking Liberal Party.
33-year-old woman walked into a hospital with a blood pressure so high it was destroying her eyes. Her kidneys were failing, and at the same time, there was no effective treatments. So in a last-ditched effort, her doctor, who was a German refugee by the name of Walter Kepner, put her on a radical experiment. Nothing but rice, fruit, and juice, almost zero salt, and he told her to come back in 2 weeks. But Kepner had a thick German accent, so she misunderstood and she came back in 2 months' time. When she returned, instead of being dead or malnourished, her blood pressure had dropped from 190 on 120 to 124 on 80.
Holy fuck. That is crazy high.
Her eye damage had resolved, and her previously swollen heart had shrunk down. Just
My
by
God.
accident, Kepner had stumbled onto something extraordinary. That was over 80 years ago, and yet was still arguing about salt. There are viral videos telling you that you don't need to cut down on your salt intake.
In this video, we're going to talk about the sodium myth.
The first conclusion they made was that the lack of evidence of benefit and concern for harm suggests that low sodium intake should not be recommended.
While at the same time,
These people are just absolute dorks.
American Heart Association says that we should ideally stay below 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day to improve blood pressure and heart health. Now, thankfully, a brand new study has just dropped. It's a massive digest of all of the research to date that finally clarifies what the evidence actually says. So Kepner's accidental discovery was followed by decades of research, and the consensus formed was clear and nearly unanimous. The American Heart Association is not an outlier here. And just a quick note, sodium and salt, they're not the same thing. Salt is about 40% sodium. Now, even in the early days, there were hints that the story wasn't quite so simple. In the early 1960s, a physician named Louis Dahl at Brookhaven National Laboratory, he started feeding rats high salt diets. Now, some rats got hypertension or high blood pressure, but others were completely fine. So he selectively bred them, and within just 3 generations, he had 2 distinct lines: salt-sensitive rats that died of hypertension on a high salt diet, and salt-resistant rats that seemed to be totally immune to it. It was the first clear proof that salt sensitivity had a genetic component, and that not everyone will respond to salt in the same way. Now, do remember that, because
I seem to be very resistant to increases in blood pressure. Even upping my sodium intake, drinking tons of caffeine, nicotine, my blood pressure does not increase.
because it does become important later. So Dahl, he spent the next 15 years proving salt's dangers. He even fed commercial baby food to his salt-sensitive rats and watched them all develop hypertension, which triggered a US Senate investigation into sodium in infant food. In 1975, he won the SIBA Award, which is the highest prize in hypertension research, and the weight of the evidence just kept building against salt. In a landmark study in 1988, which was called Intersalt, it tracked sodium in the urine of 10,000 adults across dozens of countries and found a clear association. The more sodium, the higher the blood pressure. Then there was a randomized clinical trial called the DASH sodium trial, and it went further. It tested 3 sodium intake levels across 2 different diets, and in both, reducing sodium led to significant drops in blood pressure, especially those who started with the highest levels. And when researchers followed a group that had participated in a clinical trial for sodium reduction, and that trial lasted 24 years, those...
Yeah, some people have very sensitive aldosterone, angiotensin pathways that affect sodium retention and blood pressure. I would say probably like at least half the population is like that, if not more. So yeah, especially considering, again, most people don't work out, train, exercise, keep at a healthy body weight, things that help to keep your blood pressure low and maintain like a proper sodium balance. Most people probably do want to moderate their salt intake.
Those with an intake of under 2,300 milligrams had a 25% lower risk of death than those between 3,600 and 4,800 milligrams. So lower the salt, lower the blood pressure, longer the lifespan. Case closed, or so it seemed, because a widely discussed study started raising serious objections to this consensus. So in 2014, a cardiologist by the name of Salim Youssef and an epidemiologist named Andrew Mente at McMaster University, they published a study that would ignite a scientific war. Their team analyzed urine samples of over 100,000 people across 17 countries, and they looked for indicators of sodium and potassium levels. Over a follow-up period of almost 4 years, they checked to see how heart attacks, strokes, and deaths related to these levels, and partly what they found matched the established picture. So when sodium intake levels were high, there were increased risks of death, heart attacks, and strokes. But then they found something that was quite surprising. Low sodium intake was also associated with elevated risks of heart attacks and strokes. In other words, the data seemed to show a J-shaped curve. It wasn't the case of less sodium the better. Instead, there was an optimal range that research placed between 3,000 and 6,000 milligrams a day. As Mente put it in an interview, sodium is an essential nutrient. It's not tobacco. So without sodium, you die. The optimum level of tobacco is clear.
Usually when you see people die from low sodium intake, they're usually alcoholics. People with really severe alcoholism, you'll see them go on crazy binges where they drink nothing but beer. And a lot of beers have either little to no sodium in them. So their diet ends up becoming 0 salt, and then they end up getting brain swelling and die. It's pretty rare that you see anybody have a diet that's so low in salt that they end up getting health issues from it. Because, like, again, everyone salts their food. Everyone eats processed food that has salt in it. It's really, really unusual to see that unless, like, they're alcoholics.
Clearly 0, but with sodium, it's not 0. And the response from the medical establishment was immediate and personal. Youssef, who was the study's lead, later described it bluntly. He said there has been a smear campaign by a group of people against anyone who questions salt. And the moment you stand up and say, well, it might not be as bad as what we think, you get attacked personally. Daniel Jones, who was speaking on behalf of the American Heart Association, fired back. He said this is a flawed study and no health policy should be based on the study. So critics of the prevailing view were quick to point out a glaring potential problem. Both the World Health Organization's recommendation of staying under 2,000 milligrams per day and the American Heart Association's ideal target of 1,500 milligrams per day are significantly below this sweet spot of intake. The worry, according to Mente, is that if we try and lower our sodium intakes this much, we might actually be doing more harm and raising our risks, the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. So the critics conclude that most of us shouldn't really be trying to lower our sodium intakes after all, especially if our potassium intake is adequate, because there was another important finding from this study and others as well. Higher potassium intakes lower our risks of heart attacks and strokes, and it does so by helping to lower blood pressure, especially when it's high. And there are certain conditions.
Dude, tomatoes are so fucking good. I fucking love tomatoes. You can put tomatoes in a lot of stuff and it just ends up tasting really fucking good. Tomatoes are nice. There's some canned beans that I've been getting from the store that has like tomato and some different spices in it, and it's so fucking good. Like, goddamn, I love eating that shit with tofu and sweet potatoes. Oh, my nipples. Oh, they hurt. They hurt when I pinch them. You know what I mean?
Where people should be trying to increase their sodium intake. So one example is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS. It's a condition where the body struggles to keep blood flowing to the brain when a person stands. Now, all of this has generated a lot of confusion that's made people unsure about whether they should be setting the salt shaker down or picking it up. So who's right? Is it the guidelines who say that we should cut sodium intake as low as possible, or is
It's this simple. Just test your fucking blood pressure. You can get any number of fucking blood pressure cuffs for super cheap. If you're an average, everyday fucking normie, you can just get a arm cuff. If you're a bodybuilder, get a wrist blood pressure cuff. And just test your blood pressure, and then you can see how your diet and lifestyle is impacting your blood pressure. So if you're eating a normal amount of salt, your blood pressure's fine. You don't have to worry about it. If you're eating a lot of salt or something and your blood pressure's high, then just try modifying your salt intake or whatever, see how it impacts your blood pressure, and then just go from there. It's that simple.
Is it the pure researchers who say that actually if we lower sodium intake...
No, I'd never get my nipples pierced. Never. I'm generally not into nipple piercings. Sometimes, for whatever reason, I think it might be hot on a girl. Rarely ever do I actually find it hot, though, but, sometimes it's tasteful on women, but yeah, I can't stand nipple piercings. I think for dudes, that's just super fucking gay.
Too much, that could hurt you. Well, a brand new study gives us the clearest answer yet. The study isn't just another trial that gives us one more data point. It isn't even a meta-analysis that pulls together the results from several trials. Instead, it's essentially a meta-analysis of meta-analyses of randomized clinical trials and observational studies. It's like a massive digest of all of the research conducted to date on the topic of sodium intake and heart health. And the headline findings reinforce the consensus. Low sodium intake is associated with reduced risks of heart-related and all-cause mortality. It slashed the risks of deaths from strokes by 26%. High sodium intake raised stroke mortality by 40%, and each extra 1,000 milligrams per day of sodium intake raised heart disease and stroke risks by 4 to 6%. So that settles it, right? Well, not so fast. What about Mente's J-curve? The finding that going too low may actually increase our risks. Well, this is where it gets quite interesting. The umbrella review found no signal of elevated risk at low intakes. There was no J-shaped curve. But if low sodium intake is indeed safe, then why did the Pure study find the opposite? The Pure researchers had proposed a mechanism. When sodium drops to very low levels, the body panics. It activates a backup system where various hormones, they tell our blood vessels to squeeze tighter and force the kidneys to hold on to every last grain of sodium. Think of it like a thermostat that overreacts.
Your body will just adjust. There's... again, the angiotensin-aldosterone pathway that controls, sodium, there's, a gray zone where your body can just make metabolic adaptations to it. So it's not that big of a deal.
To small temperature drops by cranking
again,
up the
especially
heat
if you're not an
maximum.
athlete and sweating a lot.
This system is called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and it can contribute to heart disease when it's chronically overactive. So is this backup system a real danger? Well, the umbrella review checked, and it found evidence of partial activation, but the response was mild. And with sustained lower intakes, the body adapts. There's no major red flags. But the researchers did find something that adds important nuance, and it brings us back to Lewis Dow's rat experiments from the 1960s. So the response to low sodium intake is not uniform across populations. It significantly lowered blood pressures in Western Pacific, Europe, and South Asia populations, but not in America's. Similarly, high salt intake wasn't associated with heart disease in US populations, but it was strongly linked in Japanese populations. So this could reflect different dietary patterns, but it may also be differences in sensitivity to sodium. So was Mente wrong? Well, not entirely. The Umbrella Review found no J-shaped curve for mortality, but his observation about population differences does turn out to be real. Dahl proved that...
What do you eat while you're bulking? Rice, tofu, potatoes, blueberries, oranges. That's the bulk of my diet.
Do you know if aliens had a culture of abducting and eating human babies and serving their flesh in a bowl of soup in their intergalactic restaurants, would SJWs try to justify that too?
I'm not sure. Haven't met any aliens. So I wouldn't be able to tell you. Thanks for the donation though, Dodo. But yeah, I'm sure SJWs would try to defend that. Especially if they were doing it to white people. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, what do I eat while bulking? And like over the winter too, my mood is kind of like crappy, and I can have issues with appetite too. I've said this before. I was on antipsychotic medication for depression a while ago, and I had what seems to be a permanent side effect from it, where my appetite ended up becoming reduced. So I have a lot of trouble eating enough food very frequently. When I'm dieting, it's not a problem because it like works out perfectly. Because like I tend to just naturally lose weight without trying. But yeah, when I'm trying to gain weight, it can be a problem. So like, you know, I'll eat potato chips and stuff here and there. Maybe I'll get some like cookies or something just to add in some extra calories if I really need it. Just here and there. But yeah, still the bulk of my diet's like, you know, good clean stuff. Does getting punched in the stomach tighten your core? That's what my boxing class does. No. It makes you used to getting punched in the stomach, but it doesn't tighten your muscles or anything. Getting punched in the stomach just reduces your sensitivity to getting punched in the stomach. That's all that does.
This is my first donation ever, so please don't skip it. You say you hate liberals, but you literally are the biggest liberal Israeli cuck. Pre-steroids you were 100% liberal. Jurian Rider. Know what I mean though? Do you still eat tempeh? Good tofu?
I don't eat tempeh. Not a fan of tempeh. Tofu's better. Tofu's great. I love fried tofu. Man, it's so good. So's like coming in the girl's pussy, you know? It's just... You just need to release big, thick, hot loads of fucking cum deep into a girl's pussy sometimes. I just love it when you just keep fucking coming for like 30 seconds and it just doesn't stop shooting out. You just need that. Thanks for the donation though, Blue.
Salt sensitivity is genetically determined. Some rats were profoundly affected, while others barely at all. And 60 years later, the same pattern shows up across human populations. One size doesn't necessarily fit all, so critics of existing salt guidelines will feel slightly vindicated by that part. And it is fair to admit that it's theoretically possible for our sodium intake to be too low. It's estimated that we need about 500 milligrams per day for our bodies to function normally. But in today's world, that's almost unheard of to get to such a low level. Plus, when blood levels...
JJ donated $2.92. What vitamins do you take daily for general health? Multivitamin, zinc, selenium, vitamin D, EPA, DHA, magnesium, and I take B12 injections. I do one injection once a week. What would you recommend for a 34-year-old male? Is multivitamin enough? Yeah, so if you're... It doesn't really matter your age. I would say if you're a male, I would definitely recommend a high-dose zinc supplement, no matter what. Anywhere between 25 and 50 milligrams. Zinc is kind of ignored a lot of the time. Zinc is super, super important, especially for men. So I recommend taking a high-dose zinc supplement. A lot of people are also deficient in iodine, so you want to make sure that you're getting an adequate amount of iodine, or taking thyroid hormone to compensate. I found that I needed to go on thyroid hormone, especially when I'm on growth hormone. So I've just been taking a replacement dose of T4 thyroid hormone, Synthroid. Other than that, like, just take like a multivitamin and you're good. And you can take like EPA, DHA. It probably has benefits as well. You might find as you get older, your ability to absorb B12 decreases. So again, you might also want to just switch to taking B12 injections. But, penis. But thanks for the donation, JJ. Hope that helps. I got the flu, lost 8 pounds and 15 plus on the bench in a week. I'm actually depressed. Yeah, that happens. I usually get a flu shot during the winter because I got the flu one time and that was fucking horrendous. Like, holy fuck, that knocked the shit out of me. I was only really sick for like a week, but like recovering from it took a long time. That was like a month until I was normal again. So I don't want to have to deal with like really bad illness and infection like that again. So I usually get a flu shot every winter. But yeah, it sucks having those kind of setbacks. Steroids help though. It's nice knowing that you can just use some anabolic drugs to like kick your body back into shape. It's kind of nuts how, like, especially for people who have undergone like major injuries or surgeries or something, like, we're not normally prescribing.
And speaking of backwards third world countries,
like, we're not normally prescribing people even for them that would like really benefit from it. Let me see.
To Candid Africa, truthful and unapologetic.
Sometimes one wonders, how is it that the American society, being as technologically capable as it is, able to do so much good, can keep its people so confused? The people all over the world hate the American people. They hate you. And what is pathetic about it is that you don't even know why they hate you, and you think they shouldn't be hating you. But if you examine it, they have every reason to be hating you because you are irresponsible to humanity. Look at the people in Iran. The guns that are used against those people are paid for with your tax dollars.
The fuck is he talking about?
The guns that are used to...
Oh, so, okay, this is probably some communist. Where the fuck is he? Kwame Tour Sober? He's a communist, right? Wait, this is Trinidadian American activist who spearheaded the Black Power movement, shifting from civil rights to Pan-Africanist revolution. Known for coining Black Power, led the blah 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 party before relocating to Guinea to fight against imperialism. Yeah, he's a fucking commie. Yep, there we go. He became leader in the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, advocating for socialism to achieve African liberation. Yeah, he's a communist. So this is just communist horseshit. I can sniff it out from a mile away now. I know all the fucking buzzwords, all the fucking rhetoric. Yeah, it's just so predictable. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Of sodium get too low, that's generally only seen in hospitalized patients, and it's generally caused because of serious health problems, not because of eating too little salt. And remember Walter Kepner, the German refugee from our opening? His rice diet, which only contained 230 milligrams of sodium per day, which is far below what anyone recommends. That study ran for nearly 60 years at Duke University, and it treated over 17,000 patients. And when researchers digitized those records, they found that that 230 milligram sodium intake, which is very, very low, it did appear to be safe, with a 5-year survival probability of 95.6%. Now, for most of us, our problem is definitely at the other end of the spectrum. The global average of sodium intake is nearly 4,000 milligrams per day. So worrying about salt recommendations because it's possible to have too little is like pushing back against exercise guidelines because it's possible to overtrain and cause injuries. So let's get really practical. What are the key takeaways of this video? Well, first, for most of us, the guidelines...
I don't know why it's, like, so difficult to just tell people to check their fucking blood pressure. You can go on Amazon, blood pressure cuffs, like, they range in price and they range in accuracy, but, like, at least you'll get some idea. You can find ones that are a reasonable price that are, like, certified to be pretty accurate. Just get a fucking blood pressure cuff, and then just see how your diet and lifestyle and everything affects your blood pressure. Like, I don't know why that's so fucking difficult for people. You don't even have to go to the hospital and, like, waste time and money, like, and all this bullshit. You can literally have a blood pressure cuff at home, see where your blood pressure's at, make adjustments to things, or if need be, like, go on medication for it. The current blood pressure meds that exist right now are extraordinarily effective. Most people can have their blood pressure under control pretty easily with 2 medications or less. So if you're not getting substantive reduction from 1 blood pressure med, usually going on 2 will fix the issue. So an ARB alone might not be enough, but if you get a beta blocker on top of that, like, usually it puts people in the normal range. So it's just not a fucking problem.
Guidelines presented by the World Health Organization and the American Heart Association, they do make good sense. They're backed up by the best available evidence that we have to date. And keeping our sodium intake levels low is linked to lower blood pressure, and that in turn is linked to lower risks of a number of problems connected to heart health. And when it comes to cutting back on sodium intake, it's helpful to realize that most of the salt that we consume is not what we add at home. Instead, it's mostly from packaged foods, which often contain very high levels of sodium. So cutting back on those is an easy way to reduce salt.
Dude, ramen noodles are just so fucking good, though.
And it will help us shift to much healthier whole foods at the same time.
I think a lot of the problem with salt as well is people will eat a lot of salt, but then they'll not drink any water. If you eat a lot of salt and don't drink water, like, yeah, that'll be a fucking problem too. But if you drink a lot of water, again, a lot of the issues with the high sodium end up going away, like, at least for most people.
Even a little change can go a long way. So a recent study in China, for instance, had people switch out regular salt for a salt substitute. So instead of the standard table salt, which is 100% sodium chloride, the salt substitute was 75% sodium chloride and 25% potassium chloride. That little dietary tweak cut stroke risks by 14%, a combined measure of heart-related problems and strokes by 13%, and the risk of death by 12% over the roughly 5 years of follow-up. The average blood pressure among those using the salt substitute dropped by about 3 points. Ideally, we want to keep both sodium intake levels low and then boost potassium intake, because most of us don't get very much potassium in our diets, so increasing our intake.
Why do you need to take so many supplements if you're eating a natural diet? I don't know why eating a natural diet means you don't need to take supplements, or you won't benefit from them. I'm also on steroids too, so the amount of nutrition and shit I need. Again, if you're growing and you're more anabolic and your body's synthesizing more tissue, it would make more sense. It would make sense that you need more nutrition, right? So
is an easy win. A meta-analysis of potassium and blood pressure, for instance, shows just how significant an impact this can be. When daily potassium intake reached 3,500 to 4,700 milligrams, the blood pressure reduction was an amazing 7 units. Potassium intake is critical in balancing sodium in our systems, so most of us want to prioritize natural food sources like leafy green vegetables, beans, lentils, and bananas. We also want to keep in mind, though, the risks of having too much potassium for people with kidney disease. My Health Roadmap tool does this automatically as it generates suggestions for you to discuss with your doctor. Now, remember Walter Kepner's patient from 1942, the woman who was supposed to die. She survived because of something as simple as changing what she ate, and nearly 80 years of research since then has only reinforced what Kepner stumbled on by accident. For most of us, less salt means lower blood pressure and a longer life. And when it comes to
penis, like, I do not understand. Pierce Morgan gets on the dumbest guess.
Do you think this chick is cute?
She's okay. She's not somebody that I'd pay attention to. Like, not my type, but she's conventionally attractive. But yeah, not my type. She's probably only good at chess for a girl. But yeah, not exactly my type. Thanks for the donation, nigga.
Louis, you've got 3 sons, 20, 18, and 11. Why were you interested in doing this documentary?
Well, for reasons closely related to that. I mean, yeah, that's obviously part of it. As a dad, I saw my kids were consuming. I mean, consuming maybe sounds more active than it was. They were being exposed to influencer content, Manosphere type content, specifically Andrew Tate back in the sort of post-COVID era when he first blew up. And I remember kids saying, the boys saying, oh, Andrew Tate said this or.
Seriously, why do communists defend these backwards third world countries like Africa and Asia so much? And constantly demonize a progressive secular country like America?
It's because they want to colonize and control these shithole nations. China and Russia have had a lot of interest in Africa, and some of it has to do with their overall geopolitical strategy with, defeating the United States and shit, but a lot of it also has to do with just getting resources from these nations and sucking them dry. So, thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
That and think like, well, who is Andrew Tate? Like, that's wasn't someone I'd ever heard of. And then the content obviously turned out to be things like, oh, women can't drive or shouldn't be allowed to drive, or women shouldn't be allowed to vote. And it was hard to, that they were sort of saying like, well, he just says it as a joke. Like, everyone's freaking out about this, but we know what it is. Like, it's clearly clickbait or rage bait, but nevertheless.
To be fair, the worst drivers I ever encounter are always women. The last, really fucking stupid thing I saw a chick do on the road was this winter. There was, this big snowstorm. And it's understandable that you're going to drive slower when, right after there's this huge snowstorm. The roads weren't cleared yet. It was before the plows actually plowed through the road. I was in my sidecar. Keep in mind, this is a fucking Russian sidecar. This is what I drive. This thing. I have a green one. But this is my fucking bike that I'm driving in the fucking winter during a snowstorm. And I've got 3 fucking wheels. It has a 2-wheel drive mode, but you don't use that when you're on the highway. So only one wheel has power, And I'm driving fucking faster than she is. And she's in, like, you know, some fucking modern hatchback. It was on the highway, too. The speed limit is 110. I can understand going, like, maybe 80 or 90 or something because of how bad, like, the fucking snow and shit was. She was going fucking 40. I was able to maintain 80 to 90 kilometers an hour in a fucking snowstorm, in a fucking Russian sidecar. You know, only 3 fucking wheels, only 1 power going to the fucking rear wheel, and this fucking bitch in a modern hatchback is going fucking 40. And I kept flashing her over and over and over again. I kept putting my fucking high beams on, signaling her, telling her to go into the right fucking lane because she's in the fucking left lane, the passing lane, going fucking 40. And then, you know what this bitch does after I fucking flash her over and over again and I literally point with my hands, go in the right fucking lane? She comes to a complete fucking stop when there's this massive fucking tractor trailer behind me. The fucking tractor trailer had to literally swerve last second so that he didn't fucking cause a pileup with me and her. And then he started honking his fucking horn, like, literally swerved. I saw him. He almost fucking ran off the fucking road, and he's going, at this fucking bitch. And I almost hit her too, because again, it's like the weather's so bad, her just abruptly coming to a fucking stop like that. I barely, missed hitting her. Fucking cunt. Why the fuck was she even driving on the fucking road then, if she's such a dumb bitch, and she can't, like, fucking, you know, go at a reasonable fucking speed, you know, in a snowstorm, and, like, for whatever fucking reason, she doesn't even understand the fucking left lane is the passing lane. Why the fuck is this bitch even on the fucking road? So, like, yeah, women are worse drivers. Like, fight me over it. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not answering that.
Its level of virality.
Thanks for the donation,
was
though.
kind of, it would be too far to say at this stage it was concerning, but it was kind of weird. It was just weird.
I messaged Turkey Tom about his ex-girlfriend situation with these, like, crazy fucking cunts just lying about him. I haven't really talked much to him in a bit, but what's kind of funny, like, we've talked about this, he made videos on people like Mizkif, which when I saw that whole story, I was like, okay, all these women are lying whores and they're making up stories about him because they have some sort of interpersonal problem with him and they think they can get ahead by lying about him. The way Turkey Tom kind of, you know, shared the story, there was a lot of insinuation that Mizkif actually did some of these things, or, like, he was the bad actor in the situation. He was never appropriately critical of any of these women. And then, sure enough, like, exactly what happened to Mizkif happened to him, if not, like, maybe even worse. So it's kind of funny when you see dudes go through this process where they think they're being sensible by, like, listening to both sides and, like, oh yeah, we should like hear women out and see what they have to say. And then it happens to them and they realize, like, just how willing women are, like, when it comes to lying about these circumstances, when they feel like they've been misgrieved in some way or they can't get over a breakup. Wow. Birds are nice. I love birds.
Did you mean mom?
A few moments later.
Hello?
My God, living with a bird seems hilarious. Alexa, fart. Oh my God. What the hell, dude? Birds are fucking hilarious. Dude, if Gummy could talk, holy shit, I would never hear the end of it. He'd just be asking for food constantly. Wow. He's dancing to the washing machine. Oh my goodness. Isn't that special? Wow. Thanks for the donation, eh?
Nice fake story you got there. I guarantee you parts of that story are completely fabricated or exaggerated. Just like you suddenly remembering yesterday how you went to Cuba twice and never told us before and made up some fake story about that.
Isaac was with me when it happened. Me and him went to fucking Walmart during the snowstorm. He wasn't sure if it was safe to drive, and I told him, nah, like, it's cool. The sidecar rips. And on the way back home from fucking Walmart, we run into that fucking bitch. So he was there. He can like, ask him. I don't know if you're on his Discord or something, but yeah, fucking ask him. That actually happened. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
To see someone blow up like that quickly, and to sort of commandeer swathes of the internet so purposefully. Like, he kind of hacked. He figured something out about the algorithm, about Twitter and social media in general, TikTok really specifically, doing podcasts, saying outrageous things, having an army of clippers repurpose those into short snippets, and those being picked up by the algorithm so that everyone, literally millions worldwide were being exposed to his content. So fast forward a few years and he continued to become famous. Other people in his stead or in associated contexts were putting out similarly viral clickbait content, and the whole culture felt like it was being inundated. I say the whole, like swathes of male skewing internet spaces were being inundated with it. And then, meanwhile, I'm, as a program maker of 30 years standing, I'm always looking for ideas. And I was talking to Netflix about making a program, and it seemed front and center of what I should be covering. As both someone, I've been joking that it's like the final boss battle of the Louis Theroux subject. As someone who specialized over the years,
Myron made a response video to a segment in the documentary on his personal channel. They all made themselves look like, I think the worst aspect of that documentary for them was they came off as extraordinarily insecure. Like, every single time Louis interviewed these people, like, they were playing this game where it's like, oh, people are so judgmental of me. I don't like how everyone criticizes me. Oh, I'm afraid to share my actual thoughts because people are going to say mean things. Like, none of them had, like, just this sensible ground to stand on where they're sure of themselves.
You and Isaac in the embarrassing lime green Krabby Patty mobile? And yeah, I guarantee you if I ask him he'll tell me it went a bit differently than how you explained it. This happens every time, also, like when you claimed China had ICBMs in Venezuela. Lamau.
Yeah, that's great. You can go ahead and ask him. Thanks for the donation, 21st. I like my Krabby Patty mobile, so shut up.
I've done stuff about racists.
Yeah, so they all looked like insanely insecure, and like they didn't seem masculine at all. They seemed like they're putting on some like fake hyper masculine persona when like internally they're like these insecure little boys that are trying to make up for some like childhood trauma or something. That was the worst kind of that's what the documentary really did. On top of that, it kind of exposed some of their anti-Semitic beliefs, some of their homophobic beliefs, like especially that fucking idiot HS Tiki-Taki. Like he couldn't really give any sensible reason for why he'd have a problem with his son being gay. Like, I don't even know why he has to make a big deal about it. Like, he could just say, I'd rather my son not be gay, but, whatever. If he is, what can you do?
Have you talked to Georgesman lately?
I don't know who that is. Thanks for the donation, though, 21st.
Cults, sex workers of different stripes, people involved in pro wrestling and gangster rap. This aspect of the Manosphere, like this subsection of the Manosphere, feels like all those things mixed together You know what I mean? They look a bit like wrestlers. They speak a little bit like rappers, and the content is clearly highly dubious at best. You know, whether or not it's sincere is a different question. So I was like, well, this is made to measure for whatever my skill set is in terms of making documentaries.
I think the wrestling analogy is apt because a lot of the stuff that we see online, even from Trump, sometimes is this weird kayfabe. Well, I don't know.
No, I'm not playing that game anymore, dude. Thanks for the donation.
Is this a joke or is this real? And if what nobody wants is to be accused of having pointed the finger at someone for telling a joke, saying that it was real. And there's always the sort of the comedian get out of jail free card of, well, like this, I'm not being serious with that. But at some points, the seriousness actually comes into touch reality.
Big time. The wrestling metaphor is, as you say, is very apropos. We're in a culture now where everyone has access to the media. Like we all have our own mini. It used to be. I'm older than you are, but I grew up in an era of 3 or 4 TV channels. Like when cable arrived, that was a big deal. Like, oh wow, you got like 40 channels. Like what? Mind blowing. Now there's a real sense in which we kind of have millions of channels. Like everyone can have a YouTube account and broadcast what they like. So we can all curate a media persona, and we all have access to the airwaves of our choosing. And part of that is employing personas and, as you say, kayfabe. Alongside that, someone who
what do you think is driving this trend? Why around men's issues? Why not around something else?
It's because we're at a tipping point where things have gone so communist, so fucking, feminine focused, and like this commie feminist brain rot has gotten to a point where it is so fucking irritating and intolerable. You're finally seeing pushback. That's why you're seeing all this manosphere shit.
Well, I think it exists among women as well, but in a different form. I mean, it's not something I've studied, but my instinct would be that there's a kind of Kim Kardashian, maybe even Bonnie Blue, sort of adjacent realm of induced insecurity about looks that involves the upselling of sponsored content and questionable beauty products. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the whole Instagram look. Like, I feel like there's a whole new female archetype that's being hatched that is, I don't, it's like, I quite like people to look, natural, for want of a better term. But I get that I don't get to set the beauty norms. I think for men, well, they say Instagram is a way for you to compare your insides with other people's outsides. So if like a lot, like I joked that I was an incel before it was fashionable. Like I can relate, I can relate to the feeling of like, wow, why am I the only one with a dance card with no names on it? I was saying to someone earlier today, like that Morrissey lyric, there's a club if you'd like to go, you could meet somebody who really loves you. So you go and you stand on your own and you leave on your own and you go home and you cry and you want to die. From How Soon Is Now? Like that's like that could be the incel anthem. So I understand why men.
Dodo donate $2. Let me see. Absolute bombshell. Data reveals someone made a massive $580 million trade on oil exactly 15 minutes before Donald Trump posted his tweet about pausing the Iran war. Oh my God. Someone on the inside just made a life-changing fortune. Corruption is blatant. Yeah, no shit. Wow.
Here's the curious thing, and here's kind of where the mystery is. I want to kind of zoom in on this area here. So I'll kind of zoom in so you can see. This is just the volumes of people.
Any ideas who this might be? Nancy? Barron? Trump himself?
There's this real spike in activity. A lot of people going in there, kind of this frenzy. And that's the kind of flip
Yeah, and then there's the one guy.
side of prices. But look at this. 15 minutes before that day, we're starting here just at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're going through to that moment of the Donald Trump makes amounts of money.
That's crazy. Dude, if only I had access to information like that. Cringe stupid, protect the children bullshit, masquerading as surveillance and running social media. How much you want to bet the jury was all women?
A verdict has been reached in a potentially landmark social media addiction trial. Meta and YouTube essentially on trial. CNN's Claire Duffy.
Oh my God. What in the fuck?
Has the latest. And Claire, what is the verdict? I understand you've got the news.
Well, Boris Brana, Meta and YouTube have both been found liable in this case for negligence and how they've operated their platforms, building these features that have been called addictive of young people, and also, found liable of failing to warn.
I'm sorry. How the fuck does any of this make any sense? Where does like if something's enjoyable, you're going to expect somebody is going to get addicted to it. Somebody somewhere. So I mean, Disney World tries to make the experience at Disney World as enjoyable as possible. If someone ends up getting like a season pass to Disney World and they go every day and they enjoy the rides and like maybe they like it so much it takes away from some other experiences like friends and family, or they don't show up to work when they're supposed to. Like, is Disney World guilty of making like something addictive and exploitative in some way? Like, their business model is based off of having people be happy and get enjoyment from like being there, right? So like this is just so outrageously fucking stupid.
Warn users of the risks of their platform. So really a significant moment here. The jurors have decided that Meta bears a 70% sort of responsibility for what happened to this 20-year-old plaintiff. YouTube bears 30% responsibility.
What in the fuck? Okay, this is just ideological. So basically they found, in a California jury, so half of the jurors were probably women, and most of them were probably these commie brain rat fucktards, and they had some ideological thing against like some big social media corporation. Addicting a young woman and injuring her mental health. Yeah, of course. Because personal responsibility doesn't have anything to do with this, right? It's always somebody else's fault. Women are fucking stupid, retarded children, and anything women do, well, it's not their fault. It's Google's fault because YouTube is too interesting, and Facebook, there's posts that I like to see on it, like.
But they have found that these companies were responsible for addicting her and causing harm to her mental health. And of course, this does set the stage for potentially similar verdicts in hundreds of similar.
She could be addicted to anything. Like, she could have ended up getting an alcohol addiction. Like, these things are legal. You can use them at your own risk. How is it their fault? Like, it's just so stupid.
Similar case.
Like, I mean, if this chick just loved my cock, she ended up dating me, and just loved getting fucked by my dick. Like, can she sue me? Like, your dick is just too good. Like, the way you fucking pounded my pussy, it was just too good. My life was ruined. I couldn't think about anything other than your dick. I had to quit my job. When I couldn't get your cock, I just had to rub one out constantly, flicking the bean. I was constantly texting you and seeing when you could fuck me. Your cock was just too good and I got addicted to it. Can she sue me over that? Like, it's retarded.
So, massive moment here. We are awaiting more information about what exactly the financial damages could look like in this case. But this is, again, a landmark moment where both Meta
They're going to get it. Okay, so Meta and Google are going to appeal this.
YouTube are being found responsible, being found liable for building addictive features that have harmed the mental health of young people.
All right, Claire, huge news. Stay with us. Let's bring in former State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg to talk about the legal implications.
This is
here.
out of this world stupid.
Right, Brianna, so there's about 10,000 similar lawsuits. They're bundled into multi-district litigation across the country. So you have all these groups, parents, school districts, attorneys general, they're all over the country. They're putting their cases together to consolidate them so they could follow with this lawsuit. But this is the bellwether. This will serve as a real tough point for Facebook and Google. They're going to have to live with this because the outcome and the damages will serve as a template for how the rest of these thousands of cases are litigated or settled. And I suspect they will.
What are your thoughts on MK677, garbage drug? Don't bother taking it. Just take growth hormone.
Settle. This was, remember, it was TikTok and Snapchat that settled with these plaintiffs before trial. And Facebook and Google said, nah, we're going to take our chances, roll the dice. Well, they rolled the dice, and it came up snake eyes.
Snake eyes indeed. We just got a statement from
Yeah, this is just stupid. They're gonna appeal this.
What do you think the chances are that HS is natty?
Well, just judging based on his physique, he doesn't... His physique doesn't scream steroid use to me. What do we got here? So this is like the stupid UK gay plates, 20 kilos. So I see he doesn't know how to hold a bar properly. What is there a plate in between here, or how much weight is that? I love how these people do this weird shit where they like put a smaller plate in between to make it look like they have more weight on or something. 140 kilograms. I don't know about that. What is that? 311. Why is... Yeah, it looks like there's a plate here, and then there's a plate in the middle, but for some reason these are different plates, and the one in the middle is smaller. So he's claiming this is basically 310 pounds.
Easy.
Yeah, why are these different... Like, literally all of them are not even the same size. What kind of fucking ghetto-ass retard gym is this? This plate looks bigger than this plate. This plate is smaller than each of these plates. How are they all a different size? And it looks like these are like the same brand. They're all red. What the fuck is this? So, So here's my take on this. He does not look anywhere near big enough to be doing 310 or 315 for sets of 13. My guess is this is either a faked lift where, because like this is just weird. Why the fuck are these plates all different sizes? I don't know what the fuck's going on there. Something strange, like, I don't know if one of these is a bumper. He might have gotten, like, a bumper plate, and for whatever reason, the plastic plates or something at their gym are different or something. I have no fucking clue. Something's a little weird about that. And secondly, like, if this is real, assuming he did, in fact, bench, like, 310 for something, he's not that big of a dude. So... there's only two explanations for that then. Either he was taking oral steroids that can jack up your strength and improve nervous system efficiency. Orals will give you more power output in the short term compared to injectables. So I don't know if he was like fucking around with Anavar or Superdrol or something like that, just to get some of his lifts up. I'm kind of leaning to this is maybe a fake lift. It's either that or he may just be like weirdly strong for his size, but something's odd about that. Like, he's just not a big dude. Like, I saw the thing that he did on Pierce, but yeah, he's got a good physique, but like, and he works out, but he's just not a big dude. So, like, I don't know. It's either one of those two things. He's either faking lifts or he might be fucking around with like oral steroids or something to get his lifts up. Or just low chance he's just strong for his size.
Did you make footage while in Cube? Or wasn't that allowed?
You mean Cuba? This was like 20 years ago, dude. Or more than 20 years ago. Like before there were smartphones, before like anybody had a cell phone. So no. I would have been like 12, and I didn't, like, there weren't any cameras really back then. Thanks for the donation, dude.
Men, especially young men, because I think that's important. Like, it's not guys, for the most part, this isn't guys in their 30s and 40s. This is teenagers, 14 through 18 and 20. And I'd say that based on hanging out with, spending time filming with HS Tiki Toki, Sneeko, and others, and seeing, like, this is, like, sometimes even 9 years old, 10 years old, coming up and saying, like, oh, mate, I love you. You're the best. So they're kids, some of them, and certainly young men who are trying to figure out where they fit in.
I think he's about 6'5". He was a couple inches taller than Bradley Martin. Oh, really? Oh, so he's weirdly tall. Okay, maybe it's hard to judge exactly how big he is then. Because if he's, like, tall, if he's that tall, he would have to be, like, a lot more muscular to... So yeah, I don't know, he might look smaller on camera than he really is. So maybe that is real. I don't know. So he'd be like a couple inches taller than me.
In life. And in a world where men...
How tall was Louis Theroux? Because wasn't he... I swear, maybe I'm misremembering, but I swear... So he should be right at around 6'2", if he's 1.88 meters. I could have fucking sworn when he was standing, yeah. How the fuck... Okay, so how the fuck is he 6'5" when Louis Theroux is like 1.88 meters? Which would put him at like 6'2", maybe 6'3" or something. I don't know. Okay, HS Tiki Taki, Bradley Martin. Were they hanging out? No, they look to be about the same height. Because Bradley's like 6'3"-ish, right? Yeah, they're... Maybe he's got an inch or two on him. How tall is Bradley?
I thought you said you went together said with Isaac, so that wouldn't be that long ago.
Yeah, it was during this winter. It was like December or something. What do you mean cube? Like I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Thanks for the donation. Even now, Joey. Yes, Joey's all that really matters at the end of the day. Okay, so he's like 6'2", 6'3"-ish. So maybe HS Tiki Taki is like 6'4". I don't know. I understand that. This might be a camera perspective and shoe thing too. I don't know what shoes they're wearing. They both seem to be wearing chonky shoes. He seems to be closer to the camera right now. That might be why Bradley looks a bit shorter. I'm not exactly sure.
Cubo FC.
Cuba. I didn't go to... Shut up. Thanks for the donation. No, they're about the same height, I think.
I like that. Then took 3 months off and then just started again now.
Yeah, they're literally the same height. He's like 6'3".
Any of the old entitlements and
He's like
certainties
6'2",
have been
6'3".
eroded, and in which they don't know, they're looking for some sort of parasocial relationship or sense of connection, and they want big muscles.
Yeah, HS Tiki Taki is like 6'2", 6'3". I don't think he's over that. So yeah, the point still stands. Either that lift was faked or he's like he was on oral steroids to jack his strength up, or he may just be strong for his size. Dodo Donate $2. Why the hell are you not on this panel? Can you make sure you get on debate panels like this now? Can you DM him right now? Say, can you get me on debate panel next time you do that right now?
I feel like we are jumping rapidly between what will benefit, like legislatively, the rightward movement, and
Okay, buddy, like, look at this group of people. The only thing that will save the liberal movement is by getting rid of these pencil neck beta male fucking commie sympathizers. That's it. But they don't want to do that. These people are all whiny fucking babies. They're infiltrated by fucking communists, and none of these people will... Like, they're trained to be annoying fucking dipshits that just infiltrate every space and fuck up everything. So there's just not enough strong male leadership within the Liberal Party to just excise these people, and they're just fucked. So, but, like, look at them. All dorks. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
And a big fast car and lots of money, and that sort of speaks for itself, right?
Yeah, it's a good point around the age. I don't really think about it that much. The audience for my podcast, which is many of whom are men, there's basically nobody below 18, and a big chunk of them are sort of 20 to 40. So I don't really think about those young kids. But I guess what's interesting is, yeah, maybe if you were to talk about the removal of previous role models, the paths toward legitimacy that men would have been able to hold on to in the past that are no longer there, socioeconomic imbalance between women's performance and men's performance. I don't know how many of kids that are 11 years old are thinking about that, are factoring that in. So I don't know that explanatory mechanism does work if you're 22, but I'm not convinced. And you've had time to kind of be rebuffed by a world that you felt you were promised but never got delivered to you. But I'm not convinced that that's the same. So maybe it's more entertainment, but there's less ability to discern whether this is something that's a turned up to 11 joke, or it's exaggerated or caricatured for comic effect, or is completely not meant seriously, or something else.
You know, it's a good point. I suspect it's a little bit all of the above. I do think that in one sense, if TikTok had existed in the 18th century, or let's say 19th century, at a time when there were jobs in factories and kind of traditional gender norms and archetypes, and I still think actually young men would be enormously beguiled by it. Like, there's a sense in which none of the messaging, you know, you look at Andrew Tate's messaging, a lot of it seems to be derived from books like Iceberg Slim's books, where it's about the pimp culture of the 50s and 60s. You know, it's this sort of sense of which I can teach you how women think, and actually you can't take women at their word. They've got they've got a whole different vocabulary. It's sort of like erroneous notions of like, breaking people's spirit and ugly, dark stuff. But it's gone viral as a side effect of an algorithm. So I think partly, even without the collapse of manufacturing in the West, parts of the West, and even without the entry of women into the workplace, and even without an attempt to be less prescriptive about what gender roles look like, it would still be enormously enticing. But then you add in some of those other things, and clearly it's even more the case. I mean, I don't know, like if you're 12 or 13, you may not be thinking about entering the workplace, but you obviously are thinking about, in some way, aspiring to be more than you are, in fairly basic ways.
Trust really is everything when it comes to supplements. A lot of brands may say that they are top quality, but very few can actually prove it, which is why I partnered with Momentum. What do you think the Manosphere that you saw is trying to remedy in the world? What are they seeking to achieve?
Well, I mean, I think you might be giving them a little too much credit. Like, I think they're trying to remedy their pocketbooks to a great extent. You know what I mean? They're trying to achieve wealth for themselves. And you could say that doesn't explain everything. Like, well, they could do that by, I don't know, going out prospecting or trying to find sunken ships. But they clearly have found a way of connecting by in a sense of appealing to the parts. I would argue the less evolved, the less meritorious, the more primitive parts of our identities. Right? There's a sort of what we're living through is a time in which our most primal urges, our kind of evolutionary strategies, our drives towards whether it's sexual or tribal, those parts that are controlled by the amygdala, like deep inside the reptile brain, have been connected to the most high-tech forms of technology. And so, we're defenseless. I don't want to sound super kind of neo-Darwinian, but, the sense in which we are still living with our own kind of software, which was evolved on the savannas of Africa, right? And it's adaptive to certain situations there, fight and flight and whatnot. And then so when those are deployed and weaponized against us, on social media, we are somewhat defenseless. I would say, I suppose you could say, well, what do they say that they're attempting to remedy? They would say they're attempting to remedy an overly woke culture, a culture in which men have lost touch with what it means to be a man, in which women, to quote Myron Gaines, one of the main people I speak to is a guy called Myron Gaines. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
So he's part of a double act called Fresh and Fit. They have a podcast in Miami. Their content is very extreme. And Myron Gaines wrote a book called Why Women Deserve Less. And his whole message is that women have been pampered and they are over entitled. And as men, we need to recognize that and give them less, and everything will go more smoothly. And so his message would be, men can hack the game of life. I can teach you the cheat codes of life. A lot of it based on old PUA, pickup artistry, supposed hacks. Negging women, recognizing that women are, in their words or in their view, status obsessed. And then you can build the life that you would like and would deserve by employing his techniques. I mean, there's a lot more that could be said about that. I found it so inimical to the way I think about it. I was raised by a feminist mum, and in South London, in a world where, the idea that, my mum was a working mum. I grew up in the 70s in South London. So these ideas are so alien to me that I had to kind of get my head around them. I think a lot of it seems to be based on his interactions with cam girls and OnlyFans models. Like, in his world, he's like, when he's talking about women, he only really seems to be talking about Instagram models and women who do a lot of social media. Like, that gets you some way down to understanding like what his mindset is. But within his sample group, he's in this world where there's this competition in which all women, one of his big things is like women shouldn't go on social media. And if you have a girlfriend, you got to keep her off social media. Anyway, I'm going on a bit of
Like, there's a level of truth to this, by the way. Women really are overly addicted to social media. Again, that's why you see all these Code Pink fucktards and pro-Palestine fucking idiots. You'll notice at all these protests, their vast majority are women. Like, at least 70%, if not more, of these crowds are women. It's because they're just on social media too much, and it just fucking rots their brain. For whatever reason, women are very prone to getting addicted to social media, looking at brain rot content, and getting just retarded fucking ideas. It just makes them especially fucking neurotic. It's not a bad idea to get your girlfriend or wife or partner to kind of remove themselves a little bit off social media and maybe do some things that are at least slightly a little more mentally healthy and productive. Like, maybe get them interested in, reading, books. Like, that wouldn't be a bad fucking thing. Maybe some just good media content, like some good movies, good series on Netflix or something. And maybe exercise and stuff. Like, why is that a bad thing? It's weird how this has to be framed in some weird kind of controlling way,
That Tyson Hockley kid got banned on Insta. Here's what he had to say about it.
Let me see. He got banned off Insta? What the fuck?
I shared a video of my friend Hexam on Instagram talking about how Clavicular tried to lock him down in a predatory contract and an aggressive contract. The day I shared that post to my story, I wrote a little comment, and there's, mind you, no problems at all with my IG account. The next day I wake up and I was suspended. And it's kind of weird because Hexam also told me after he didn't sign Clav's contract, he started getting a whole bunch of posts removed and stuff as well. So, dude, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm not trying to throw any shots because obviously I don't actually know if this is the reason. And I don't harbor any animosity in my heart. If anything, if certain people are watching this, bro, I low-key kind of just want the Instagram account back. This could be a peace offering, okay? Let's get my fucking account back and we'll be chill. I'm not gonna throw any more shots. All right, this is a peace offering, but dude, like 62,000 followers, like, bro, that was a grind to get there, and just to have it like taken away, just because I fucking shared one.
It could just be a coincidence. I don't know. Like, it seems weird that Clavicular would be able to get somebody's Instagram account taken down. That's a little weird. I've seen some of the stuff that he posts on there. Like, he literally interviews neo-Nazis and shit. So he might want to, like, not do that anymore. Like, Instagram is run by Facebook. So I've seen some really bad people that he's been talking to where, you know, they say the N-word, they're white nationalists. Some are literal Nazis. They say some unhinged shit. So, like, maybe just don't post shit with people like that. You kind of have to play it safe these days. I mean, I almost got fucking banned over just reacting to a fucking video where somebody was shooting guns in Afghanistan. So, like, you know, it would surprise me if Clav had anything to do with that. Really surprise me. It's very likely just a coincidence. I don't know why the fuck people can't just, like, lift weights, take steroids, focus on getting bigger, stronger, making some money, and just, you know, focus on, like, leveling themselves up. And if anybody wants to, like, you know, if anybody's interested in what you're doing, like, you know, if you want to help people, you know, offer a helping hand to, like, also help other people. Why does everything end up having to be like, fucking, let's get rid of the darkies. Oh, what are fucking gay people doing? They make me sick. And, the fucking trannies. I don't know why, like, those problems have to exist.
Of a tangent, but their message is an it's too kind to call it old school. I think it's a sort of almost a pastiche of, maybe a kayfabe of, but certainly a parodic sort of hyperbolic version of some old school masculinity, in which men should be able to have sex with as many women as they like, and women should really only be virgins until they marry, and then just sleep with their husbands.
Maybe old school, but Genghis Khan, old school.
Yeah, maybe you take it back to Genghis Khan would be probably that would be their ultimate alpha.
Look, I think it's interesting for me having this conversation because I'm accused of being a part of the Manosphere very regularly. I got in trouble at the start of this year, and a lot of I got called, for the first time ever, I got called a Luxmaxer. And I realized, when that happened, I realized that Luxmaxer had taken the place of this sort of catch-all term for some guy that we don't like and probably has icky beliefs. It would have previously been, what's the link with childhood experiences here? You mentioned sort of some patterns of fatherlessness or strife in the upbringings.
Yeah, I mean, I hesitate to play armchair psychologist, but let's do it anyway. It's definitely the case that of the people I interviewed, the ones whose backgrounds I looked into, that was the business guru and friend of the Tate's, Justin Waller, and also HS Tiki Toki, and Tate is obviously Exhibit A. There was this sense in which there was no father figure present in the home. You know, as a sort of like self-identified progressive, like, you know, there's a part of me that's like, actually, I think all kinds of flavor of family can work, but it's noticeable how much trauma there was in the homes of these people, and also, just unpredictability. You know, it might even be that, you know, the first go-to would be like, oh, I guess a dad in a home would be good. Like, I tend to think if it's an option, you know, dads bring a lot to the table, you know, the risk of stating the obvious, but just stability, just some sense of like knowing that there's some regularity and some kind of sense of security in the home.
Dads are absolutely fucking necessary for raising children. And it's fucking disgusting that there's been this propaganda for decades that, oh, men are fucking useless. Who needs a man? Women can raise children on their own. Independent single mom. Like, we knew this already, but, like, the data's out. Men are better at raising children. Children who are raised by single fathers have better outcomes than children that are raised by both parents. So you've got children that are raised by women on the fucking bottom, where they're like these fucking insane, depressed, neurotic, anxious fuckwits who can't get anything done. Then, like, in the middle tier, you have, like, kids that are raised by both parents, where they have to hear nonsense from their fucking mom. And then top tier kids, they're just raised by their fucking dads. Fathers bring stability to the fucking home. They obviously have an income. You know, they're dedicated. They like obviously bring that financial stability, but they bring a sense of control and fucking normalcy in the fucking home. They're better at disciplining kids. They teach them like self-control and just how to think properly and not like and deal with anxiety and depression and shit and like how to focus on your goals and stuff. So like the data is out there. Dads are absolutely fucking necessary for raising kids.
Both financial and emotional. And yeah, it goes without saying, if your dad's coming around beating you up, that's going to kind of create an almost apocalyptic mindset. Like I've said in the past that there's parts of the tape message, this message where you can't trust anyone. Only you can depend on yourself. You got to be a warrior, and go out there and women are at risk of being attacked. And that's why you can't let your wife out on her own, because you got to be a warrior. And she could be like, actually, if you were living in the time of Genghis Khan, maybe, or maybe like there'd been a complete collapse of society and marauding bands of warlords were taking over the streets, you know, the tumbleweed-strewn streets, you know, and we were sort of foraging in cracks in the gutters. Like, okay, yeah, I guess you would have to be like a warrior, but that actually isn't, not yet anyway, the society that we live in. But I do think that if you come from a somewhat apocalyptic home life, and you have to evolve this sort of warrior strategy in order to make sense of it, you know, where your dad is marauding into the house every now and then you can see how that would be an appealing mind.
My mom is a Giga Chad bro, single mom of 4, had an abusive dad, beat our ass. She got us out. We were homeless at first. Now she's a millionaire. Legit crazy story. That's fucking crazy. Based mom, dude.
Mindset. And he and his brother, you get the sense of them being.
I really like my mom. I had problems with her growing up, but like I think we've both kind of matured and gotten better, and I appreciate what she at least tried to do with me as a kid. I think she had the right idea. She just kind of like failed in execution, and she had a lot of her own like personal issues that I can sympathize with, that, you know, now that I'm older, I kind of understand where some of it came from. And I got rid of all the like personal issues with all my family members. Like I've forgiven them. Like my grandfather wasn't great to me either, but like again, I know that he had his own set of issues, and he tried. They all tried. Fundamentally, they all cared about me, even if they didn't exactly have the best way of showing it. I know they cared, and that's, you know, what really matters.
Trauma bonded. And in a world where nothing outside their tiny unit is solid or quite trustworthy. And then you roll that out, and kids are like, yeah, I want to be a warrior. It sounds kind of cool. Like, it sounds badass. And it becomes a all-encompassing model for how society should be.
If that's the case, if it's so common that a lot of guys...
Do you think Lewis' documentary convinced anyone? I don't think it did. He doesn't look buff enough, not going to lie. Well, I think what it achieved is it would make anybody looking on the outside in realize these people are all like scammers and not great people. People who are on the inside looking out at the Louis Theroux documentary, it's not going to convince any of them. And yeah, like some of the optics where you've got this like really meek, skinny looking kind of guy talking to these dudes who are just like bigger and stronger than him and shit, and who probably also make more money. It's not going to convince any of these kids, I don't think. Like, especially some of the dumber kids. Like, if it were me who might have gotten sucked into some of this, I definitely would have picked up on like the insecurity and the kind of like fake alpha male persona these guys are putting on, because like they were super insecure around Louis.
Who are growing up to talk in a vociferous manner about how to survive the world, about self-sufficiency and sovereignty and not being able to trust and standing on your own 2 feet. And that's come out of difficult childhood experiences, fatherless homes, maybe some neglect or dysfunction or abuse. I don't know, you know, in many situations, you'd say, well, that deserves sympathy.
Oh, I'd agree.
Yeah.
And in fact, I do think that I've attempted to extend empathy to, you know, I tend to think like those categories of victim and perpetrator can be too binary. Like, you sort of see ways in which these guys, these influencers are. I mean, I feel bad for what Andrew and Tristan Tate went through. Like, it's quite painful. We have a little picture of him age 4 years old. You think, what did that kid go through? And then similarly, we meet someone called Ed Matthews, who's a friend of HS TikTok. He's another streamer who gives vent to some conspiracy theories. But you also see him when he's, I think, 9 or 10 years old,
Eating
going online,
marshmallows.
eating marshmallows, talking in a like YouTube mid-Atlantic accent, going, "Can you say fuzzy bunny or something?" And you just see like he's a guy who grew up more or less online, raised by YouTube. Like they used to say, like kids raised by wolves in the woods. He's been raised by an algorithm. And what does that do to you? Well, it turns out it turns you into Ed Matthews. So yeah, I think it's appropriate to have empathy. And I think the part that we don't really dig that deep into is the tech side, like the ways in which, like, who's behind this? Because it's kind of grey engineers and business people who've programmed social media platforms in order to keep us online for as long as possible. But we're all defenseless. I have no superiority when it comes to my algorithm. Has me by the short and curlies. I go onto Instagram to send a DM to someone, and then 20 minutes later, I'm looking at videos of a woman playing the piano with her breasts. It was a real one that came up, not naked. She wasn't naked. Someone sent that to me. I'm like, what the hell? Don't send that to me.
These platforms are really good at hacking the bottom of our brain stems. And yeah, I guess it's an interesting challenge to think. I had this guy on the show, Stuart Russell, and he wrote the book on artificial intelligence up until probably about 6, 7, 8 years ago. And he explained to me about how these algorithms.
Are there any nice places to visit in Ottawa? Why don't you explore the city? I just haven't really gone. I haven't had too many opportunities to go, really. There's definitely really nice parts of the city. Around Parliament Hill, that's really nice. I've been there a few times. I was wandering around there a bit with Clarence. Unfortunately, like, there isn't a really good natural history museum in Ottawa, which Toronto does have. I think they have an art museum. I might check that out. And, I'll probably just, when the weather warms up, I'll just wander around the city a bit just to see what's going on. I think there are some trails where there might be good rollerblading and stuff. But, yeah, I just, for whatever reason, haven't really spent much time down there.
Work these black box algorithms. If you ask the YouTube engineer, let's say there was just one, so what is the algorithm? What does it do? Can tell you what the output is, but no one can tell you how it works because it's self-training, right? It's trying to maximize largely click-through rate and time on site. It's like get people to press a thing, and once they've pressed a thing, get them to stay on the thing. That's kind of it. Maximize time on site. And what he taught me that was really interesting, and I think adds a really cool flavor whenever you're watching anything on the internet, especially if you see this kind of runaway escalation effect of any type of content, is the algorithm can do two things to make you more likely to click on a piece of content. First one, which most people understand, is it can become better at predicting your preferences. I know what you like, and I'm able to deliver that to you in a good way. The second one, which is way more pernicious, is it can nudge your preferences to be easier to predict. So if it's able to engineer you, and typically if you're out on one end, either right or left or up or down based on whatever, ideological map you want to use, it is far easier to predict how you're going to behave. Because if you're in the middle, you might fall one way one time and then another way the next. And I realized as he was talking, oh, well, there's also an implication here for the people making the content. Because if the algorithm is training the feedback mechanism of the preferences of the people who are watching, it's also doing it to the people who are incentivized to maximize the people that are watching. Because me and you've got podcasts and stuff, you've got metrics, you can see what you're doing that is effective. There's a retention curve. Oh, I said this thing. Oh, that was we should do more segments like that on the show next time. Or I don't know what reporting Netflix gives or has or whatever, but I can imagine in a documentary, people screen test movies and stuff, right? Like that's kind of the same thing. Why are you screen testing a movie? Because you're trying to be shaped by the audience. But this is now being done en masse with metrics all the time, 24 hours a day with an algorithm. And you bring up the sort of dynamics of live streaming and how that sort of contributes. I saw for the first time ever, I was at Mr. Beast Games 2 premiere in Hollywood at the start of the year. And for the first time ever, I saw a live streamer in the wild, and I'd only ever seen it this side of a screen before, and to hear someone unironically say W cameraman in the chat, but to hear that in real life, to me, kind of felt a little bit like seeing a school teacher at the supermarket. Like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. Like, you should, Mrs. Henderson, you're supposed to be in history class. But yeah, this algorithm thing, it's becoming better at predicting users' preferences, but it's also shaping the preferences of those users to make them easier to predict. And it has to be shaping the incentives of the creators. And this is what audience capture is, right? That you just begin to throw more and more red meat toward the audience to do the thing, to say the thing that they are going to agree with, that they're going to respond to. So yeah, the algorithms are warping, but they're warping in kind of all directions, including kind of vertically integrated back up the production stack.
100%. And imagine if, as well, like you're putting out content that is maybe feels authentic to you. And, you know, maybe some of it is stunts and pranks, and some.
So I think one element. What do you agree with them on? What do you?
Okay, good question. And by the way, and I also want to say, like, I think your point about people talking past each other, like one of the things I have observed, like in all the years of making documentaries, is very often people who are disagreeing aren't really disagreeing. They're just sort of selecting a different data set and then arguing past each other. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And none of them's particularly disconnected from the facts. Like they just, you know, there's some truth in that concept of alternative facts. Like there can be different groups of facts, and then you select the data set that supports your argument. So I could identify toxic manosphere figures and then call you manosphere, and then suddenly you look toxic, right? So I think the conversation has become characterized by a little bit of bad faith in terms of attempting to stigmatize anyone who expresses relatively uncontroversial opinions about, well, maybe there are some differences between many men and many women that are worth considering, while never allowing that to kind of be overly prescriptive or lock people into preordained identities. The part that I agree with, I think in general, well, I think I've answered the question. Like, I think in general, it's helpful to recognize there are differences between most men and most women. Like, without privileging them or reifying them, you know, it would be. But again, it's kind of crazy that I have to be careful how I say this. But
This is the throat clearing thing. This is
right?
the sensitivity around this discussion.
And that actually, I'm a fan of. I tend to think, you know, so in terms of their content, like. I like self-reliance. Like, I like exercise. I think the idea of aspiring to be the best version of yourself is valid. I think attempting to fix yourself first, think about ways in which you can kind of attain some kind of mastery over your life, right? Don't spend your hours endlessly looking at the internet, playing video games, looking at adult content, you know.
Did school or anything worsen your mental health issues? Well, yeah, obviously. School sucks. You're just locked in a fucking building with complete fucking retards doing shit that you hate. No shit that's gonna make your mental health worse.
You know, it's a paradox of the world that much of the Andrew Tate messaging is around like stop playing stupid video games and stop looking at internet porn. But I sort of agree. I agree with both of those points. Do you know what I mean? But actually, the thing I disagree with is, well, the fact that it comes packaged with a bunch of toxic or you know, just degrading and demeaning content. If you separate, like, I follow Joe Wicks, like I'm a subscriber to, you know, Joe Wicks. He's like he's a fitness guru in the UK, like, and I subscribe to his app. He doesn't pay me anything to say that, and so 5 days a week, I'm not a gym bunny, you know, maybe one day, but I've got 3 kids and a business and whatnot. You know, I'm making excuses, but I've got 20 minutes or half an hour in the day, and I switch the phone on, and I watch Joe, and he leads me through a workout, not live. They're recorded, and that makes me feel great. So yeah, all of that I'm fully on board with. But what I'm not on board with is the horrific content that's being amplified and the ways in which it's become so small, and they're sort of role playing as multimillionaire oligarchs, and it's so paper thin, you know. And this idea of chasing money, and I'm just not a fan of what they call flossing. Is it like the idea of like showing off your, like, oh,
flexing?
Look how, flexing is flexing's the
Flexing.
more conventional term. I think flossing is something. I'm not sure what it is.
Okay.
You familiar with flossing?
The dance move from Fortnite? He's mixing up the dance move from Fortnite with flexing?
The dance?
Jeez, he's literally like, this is boomer, peak boomer, dude.
I don't know. Okay. Anyway, okay, so you agree?
I've got full granddad, but you know that whole thing about, oh, I'm better than you because I'm on a yacht. I find that so cringe, and it just rubs. I mean, I get that, like, if you're, you know, I just think that actually we should be better than that. And I also think that, you know, the idea, like, how can I make a ton of money? Like, dude, just follow your passion. Like, don't sign up for a seminar on how to be a millionaire. Just find something that you're good at.
Well, it certainly becomes self-selecting that if you're trying to find, quote unquote, a good woman who isn't concerned with your material wealth, but what you spend most of your time doing is flexing your material wealth, you're going to attract the sort of woman that is picking up what you're putting down. And it just reinforces, I don't know, it's like every interaction just further confirms what your priors were. And
married.
I am going to go pee in the bathroom. Might have to poop too, but this game looks kind of interesting. I'll add it to my wish list. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back in just a moment. Ooh. All right, I am back. Ben Boyd only Tiller's POV Isaac walks into the bathroom after VG uses it.
Smells like pee-pee and poo-poo in here.
It's gotta be Tony.
No, seriously, why does it smell like caca and wee-whiz in here?
Well, that's what the bathroom's for. Thanks for the donation, Ben Boy.
I don't like it when people blame the algorithm for people having mental health issues. I think it's just a way for people to avoid taking accountability for their actions. If people want better mental health, they need to form better habits.
Yeah. Personal responsibility does exist. So, you know, it's just dumbasses. Thanks for the donation, Jeremy.
Without any doubt, the greatest bodybuilding show on earth. You don't want to miss it. Hey guys, Ivan here, and in today's video, we got a couple of really interesting bodybuilding updates. Now, in this video, we don't have any physique updates, so if you're here to see some oiled up bodybuilders in tongs, I'm sorry, you can turn off the video. This one is more about the updates of what bodybuilders are doing, but I'll throw in a couple of photos for you guys as well. So the first thing we got is Nick Walker talking about his next show, kind of, you know, addressing the rumors. And the rumor right now is that he's going to be skipping the Mr. Olympia this year. That he wants to focus on the business side of things and not do bodybuilding shows, at least this year. Guy Sternino kind of made it sound like he's going to take a longer break because he competed multiple times in the last 7 months. He was in the prep for 7 months, and now Nick wants to take a break, which is true. Nick did say that as well himself. But in my opinion, that just meant a short break. Not doing the Detroit, not doing the Arnold Classic UK, and possibly not even doing the New York and the Pittsburgh, which I doubt as well. But in this video, he kind of addresses this. So let me show you what Nick has to say.
And that's why now I'm stemming into more business side of things, you know, to put myself out there more without having to rely on the stage so much. That's, again, I'm not saying that because, you know, I don't know. I'm not saying that because I don't want people to think, oh, he's not competing this year. I don't know what my plan is for all those that want to keep asking.
All right, so as you just heard, he is focusing on the business this year, but his plan is to compete. He still has plans to compete that big, that long of a break. That's not happening. All right, now the next thing is about the classic guys who are competing at the Arnold Classic UK. Finally, guys, finally, hopefully, we'll actually see Mike Sommerfeld versus Wesley Wissers. We did see this before. For example, this photo right here when they were younger. Like this looked very, very interesting. This was back in 2016, and here I would say that Mike was definitely better. Neither of the guys were in shape at this time, but I would say Mike was just more complete, better. And as you can see, they were both competing in bodybuilding as juniors. They competed at the Arnold Classic Europe. So yeah, at this point, Mike was bigger and better as a bodybuilder, but as a classic physique guy, I'm not sure who would win this today. So we'll see that in a couple of days, hopefully, and it actually seems like it's gonna happen. Now, what we got in this video is those two guys kind of addressing these things. For example, Wesley first talks about what his weight actually is and what his height is right now. Check this out, it's very interesting.
So weight-wise, where are you weight-wise compared to? I was now measured at 16. Yeah. A little was because my weight limit went up. Okay. 6 pounds more. Oh, okay. I used to weigh around 245, and now I'm at least on the show day 255. Okay. So at least a good 10 pounds. Yeah. Different.
It's pretty huge.
I'm allowed to weigh 256 or something on the weigh-in. Yeah. But I weigh a lot less during the weigh-in anyway. Okay. So usually I weigh around 250 around the weigh-in. So there's still more room to grow, luckily.
All right. So apparently Wesley grew in height. He was measured taller this time around than the last time he was measured. And over here, we're all kind of criticizing Mike for working on this, for trying to be measured at a taller weight when you can't grow taller at that age. But you can be measured taller for whatever reason. Like, I don't think Wesley grew in height, but maybe they measured him shorter before. Maybe the last time they measured him, he was too dehydrated and, you know, his spine.
Your height fluctuates. You're shorter by the end of the day than you are in the morning. Some of it has to do with hydration. just standing up and having pressure on your spine and your feet, that also smushes you a little bit. So, yeah, if you make sure you're well hydrated, you don't stand up much, and you stretch out your spine a little bit by doing like dead hangs, you can be heighted and taller.
Spine compressed a little and he was shorter. Or for example, the cushions below your heels can dehydrate, and if you compete, you guys know what it feels like to stand on something, on a hard surface when you are that shredded. I mean, it's very painful. Or to sit on something that's very hard as well if you have no body fat on your glutes. So this is the same situation. If he lost some fat or some water underneath his heels, then maybe that's why he was measured shorter. And the same thing would have happened with Mike. And Mike wanted to be measured taller. He failed at that. He didn't manage to do that. But Wesley did it. I don't know if he tried very hard, but he was measured at over 6'3", which means his weight cap before was 245, and now he can be 256, guys. 256. That's an open bodybuilder. That's an open bodybuilding physique, man. That's huge. And yeah, in my opinion, he didn't deserve to win the Detroit Pro, but some people actually have him winning this show. For example, Jose Raymond, and also Milos Sarcev and Dennis James. But honestly, I was confused when Jose said this about the front relaxed, because I don't see Mofuda losing to Wesley in the front relaxed. Check this out.
I don't think it's close, even in this pose. The level of deep separation that Wesley has and in the tight waist, even though his legs are a little smaller, it's just he's put together perfect.
Okay, so you would have a guts to give this to Wesley?
Absolutely.
Even though
I won't judge this pose. I'll wait till he hit that front double.
I feel like they just wanted to make sure that they actually say that Wesley deserved to win the overall, but, giving him the front relaxed, no chance. The other pose, like the back pose and some other poses, I can see that kind of 255, 256, so he can definitely grow more muscle, which he's probably going to do for the Mr. Olympia. That means that Wesley can be much, much bigger, and he already was significantly larger at the Auto Classic compared to his last showing. And that's something Mike wants really badly. He didn't get it. Wesley got it. And that's why he looks so big. And that's why the next show is going to be very interesting, because Mike is going to be smaller than what we're used to, right? He won't be able to be at his best, at his biggest, but Wesley is going to be huge. Now, we got something very, very interesting as well about Mike Sommerfeld, and it seems like Mike Sommerfeld is a changed man, a new person. Let me show you what new Mike looks like and sounds like. Take a listen.
We learned a lot, and we are more than happy to represent something special on stage. So we put everything in we had, and we'll see who's going to win the show. But what I can say for now, for a fact, that whoever wins the show, we're going to have a great champion. Could be Wes, could be Andrea, could be me, doesn't matter. I'm really happy for the guy who looks the best and wins the show. That's what it's about.
All right, Mike is a changed man. Did you see that smile and how nice he is? He says anybody can win this. Wesley can win this. Andrea Mamoli can win this. Even I can win this. Do you guys see how nice he became? Well, actually, in the comments, some people are buying this, believe it or not. So somebody here says, Mike is a good dude, man. If he's on, he wins. Another guy says, you can't hate on Mike. Always good spirits. And then another guy just finally makes sense and says, it's like you can see through his fake smile. And the next guy says, God, who cares? Make the weight and compete. And yeah, I get both arguments and I agree with both of them, but especially the first one, you can definitely see through the fake smile. It's completely fake. Mike does not feel like this. He believes, I'm sure, very firmly that he is going to win, that he has to win. This is just an act, but he's doing a good job with that. Martin doesn't know how to do this. So at this point, even though Martin is behaving very childish,
God damn.
At least Martin is being honest. And I can find a way to actually respect that and to like it at some level. His behavior is definitely not good, but that's him. That's him. You can hate him, and most of you do, and I get that, but at least he's not being fake. And Mike most certainly is right here, but again, he's doing the right thing. Does he need to be honest online? Does he need to truly show his real personality? Who says he needs to? It's definitely a good thing.
I like beans. I also like butts. Titties are good too. Good.
Calls for a neurologist have exploded after Donald Trump was standing unsteadily with an asymmetrically droopy face. And I've got to tell you, nobody's falling for that completely clashing makeup on his right hand, meant to cover bruises from who the hell knows what. This video raising a lot of concerns. This was at a ceremony celebrating the swearing in of Mark Wayne Mullen as Donald Trump's new Secretary of Homeland Security. Trump also struggling with the acronym for DHS. We'll get to that. But major concerns about Trump's appearance and unsteadiness during this event.
It just seems surreal being in the Oval Office and having the President of the United States speak so highly of me and then recognize my family and know my family by name. It's humbling, and I never take it for granted. But I've made this very clear that I don't care what color your state is. I don't care if you're red or you're blue. At the end of the day, my job is to be Secretary of Homeland and to protect everybody the same, and we will do that. I'll fight every single day. Today, I got the privilege of meeting so many. It just seems
Trump, very, very concerning. Very, very concerning to people with regard to his appearance. Now, then it got even worse as Donald Trump struggled to read a 3-letter acronym from his pre-written speech. Trump's speeches are written at the 4th grade or lower level, and he often just struggles.
As he takes the helm of DHS, Mark Wayne will fight for Homeland Security, the United States, and securing the country and making it really strong and the way it should be. Our country's come a long way in the last year.
Yeah. More substantively,
Okay.
Trump says during this same event, we have won the war. And later Trump says he doesn't call it a war. So which is it, Mr. President?
Oh my God, give me okay. This is just fucking stupid. Pac-Man is being a pedantic asshole.
I was doing Conan the Barbarian. So everything that they said that would be impossible all of a sudden changed. And when they asked John Milius, the director of Conan the Barbarian, how did you get to the idea to have Schwarzenegger star in Conan the Barbarian? I mean, the last movie you did was The Wind and the Lion with John Connery and with Candice Bergen. Now you're hiring Schwarzenegger? Are you kidding me? What kind of a leap is that? And he says, if we wouldn't have had Schwarzenegger, we would have had to build one because Conan was a heroic guy the way Frank Frazetta painted him. So to do justice to that, the only one that was around was Schwarzenegger. And he was an actor at the same time. So I was so happy to find someone with a body like that. So exactly what they said is going to backfire on me was an asset. I was doing...
Hell yeah, based. Apparently they're making a new Conan movie with Schwarzenegger. He's starting to train for Old Man Conan.
You know, just shutting down at 16 frames a step, you know, just wall splatting you into his damage. And again, you're sitting here and you're like, all of this combined, is this healthy for law? Is this a fun character to play against? Is this a character that rewards skill and people thinking? There's no execution anymore and there's no strategy anymore. Just a masterclass in terrible game design and not understanding your own characters and your own game. Another season 3 video, the clusterfuck that keeps on giving. In this video, we're going to talk about what happens when you take an overpowered character and you buff them significantly. Probably not something you want to do in your competitive game, yeah. But they
Low tier god ain't beating me in a bench press competition anytime soon, dude.
sure as hell did with Law in season 3, and it's just hilarious. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to explain to you how he's played, why he was top 5 in Season 2, and just how much he was buffed going into Season 3. With Tekken 4, we introduced a super cool mechanic, which was his stance DSS, Dragon Sign stance. A stance that gives Law some like really neat attacks, like Legend Kick here. So very important stance for his insane fucking pressure, how he just links move into move, and it's just insane frames, right? And this is a character that's always been able to do like everything. He has like strong homing, he has a strong 50-50, he has very...
Yeah, the shit just makes me uninterested in playing Tekken Online. That's why I gave it up.
strong generic down for 2 tracks to both.
Like, it's fun when you're playing casually with friends and shit, but like when you're doing online matches, it just ends up being a nightmare.
Sides, -7 on block, 11 frame panic button that launches you. He's got some cool...
I benched 410 pounds naturally when I wasn't on steroids, so even when I was natural, he would not be able to compete with me on bench, dumbass.
Last flips, he's got a launching throw. He, you know, has a G clef, which is countered jab string, so at 10 frames, that for some reason has to launch when he's in heat. I don't know why, but apparently it has to do that. They gave him a nunchuck, which also has absurd frames, absurd reach, and does crazy things. So a character that was, for all intents and purposes, one of the absolute strongest in the game in Season Season 1, Season 2, he was top 5, did super well in tournaments. And this is a character that kind of fell from grace in terms of being a character for like very experienced players and dedicated mains from Tekken 4 to Tekken 7, because this Dragon Sign stance, to go into it from key attacks like while standing 4 and 4 free into DSS here, you had to do a very complex sequence of inputs. It required a high degree of mechanical skill. So you would do while standing 4, and after inputting while standing 4, you would have to press like back 4, very quickly with strict timing, and he would then immediately go into Dragon Sign stance. And due to this technical input, you got access to the craziest frames in Tekken. If you had the skill, no one could compete with this guy's frames. Now, with Tekken 8, a tragedy in my opinion, in terms of character identity and keeping a character interesting, this was flushed down the fucking toilet. So now anyone can do it, you just hold forward, and suddenly you have access to some insanely OP stuff. So again, while standing 4 is a key move on a lot of characters because it's a mid with typically 11 frame startup and generous range. If I just hold forward now, I'm plus 12 on a while standing 4 on normal hit. On a while standing 4 on block, I'm a whooping plus 4. Absolutely insane on block. Most while standing 4s on block, you're happy if you're like -2, -3. A lot of...
I also hear he's going to play Dutch in the next Predator movie. Oh yeah, I think I heard about that too. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Characters are like -7. Law, he has momentum. He is plus 4. And again, while standing 3 on block, plus 16 on block.
Tekken 8 doesn't suck. It's just that they absolutely fucked the like balancing of the game. Again, it's just frustrating to play. Like, if you're playing casually with friends and shit, it's great, but, like, it's just so frustrating to play with, like, the sweaty online matches, and you just get this, like, very strong sense that it's just unfair. If you just pick certain characters, it is just unfair. And, like, the unfairness just makes it not fun, you know?
Block. So again, this was gate kept from most, 99% of law players in Tekken 7 and, up until Tekken 4 due to the execution. They totally scrubified law while also buffing him and giving him crazy tools like, 10-frame launcher and just, in general, like crazy buttons, right? I've never liked Tekken 8 law due to this. He's super scrubby, super OP. Before we get into the new stuff, it's super funny to see one of these nerfs. So Law has always had one of the best heat smashes in Tekken 8. It has a very generous hitbox, like very decent range, quite obscene frames on block here, plus 11 into DSS, and more tracking than most heat smashes. And it would wall splat from like a football stadium away. This was removed, the wall splat, right? And Jin had a similar thing happen, also with a football stadium.
Remember when I was in Dutch equivalency of elemental school 5 yo, I brought an antique-looking double-shot toy gun to school and the female Christian teacher wanted me to hide it cause it scared her.
Yeah, I know, man. Just... society's gay. I used to have a toy gun that I carried around all the time when I was a kid. You can't really do that anymore because, like, just society is so brain-rotted and fucking retarded. But, yeah, just everything's gotten super fucking gay. Thanks for the donation, dude.
Away heat smash. But this is an interesting thing to observe. I'm gonna heat smash now into this explosive TNT wall. Observe that he slams into the wall and there is no explosion, no combo. So the way it should be, right? I still get Oki, right? I can run up and get Oki. So now observe what happens, right? TNT behind Jin. I'm gonna do it with Law.
Conan the Destroyer is not worth watching. Not at all. The first Conan movie's great. I haven't seen the one with Jason Momoa. I heard it was terrible. Apparently the first 30 minutes are good, but after that it's just bad.
Boom, you saw that? Jin slides into the wall, it explodes. Law gets a full combo. Isn't that pretty hilarious?
Yeah, so, like, that's what annoyed me too with Tekken. Some of the fucking combo strings are just so out of this world, fucking stupid and long. Like, it just shouldn't be that way.
And at 14 frame startup, I'm just hoping this is an oversight, right? And that they are going to remove it. Whatever Jin's Heat Smash is doing currently, that's what Laws should be doing. So I just found that very funny. But so now look at the buffs. And again, on a top 5 character, observe the buffs and what this is going to mean for anyone trying to even contest this character. Something typically low players do, they can do like this move, forward 1+2, Dragon Hammer. Law has a lot of god buttons. This is one of his best buttons. It's a pretty long range mid that gives +3 on block on the opponent, right? Counter it launcher. And you can go into crouch when he does it by holding down. This means that the while standing 4 I follow with here at 11 frames is obviously uninterruptible. You can only look at low. And the while standing 4, by just holding forward now, no execution, I'm at +4. So yet again, you're just looking at me because if I do DSS forward 1 here, my 14 frame heat engager, if you jab, we are going to trade. And that's not fun for you, right? Because this leads to a wall splat. So you don't really want to trade. But now they've given us a blue spark version, right? Of this move. And now it is 13 frame startup, making it completely uninterruptible. If you jab, you're going to get counter hit and killed, right? So that's 13 frame startup. And as you saw, note for pushback, it's still -11, like the normal one. But where the normal one has no pushback, Blue Spark 1 pushback, and now I'm safe. He certainly needed that. With Season 2, they made it so that you had to commit to 20 frames if you wanted to be safe here, right? If you wanted to be fast and uninterruptible, you were punishable at -11, right? And no pushback. But so now it's the best of both worlds for Law, right? Now, due to the pushback on the blue spark, I'm safe. I'm still -11, but now you can't punish me. And it was 13 frame startup, so it's completely uninterruptible now, right? And also, it sets up a really good range for Law with this pushback, because if you start mashing buttons, which a lot of people typically do, the nunchuck, which is one of my best moves, is in range to actually threaten you, right?
That is so much fucking range.
So he throws a jab.
Fucking bullshit.
And I'm threatening him with the nunchuck, right? So he could get counter hit, whatever. I just find this to be an interesting detail that not only is it safe, but it sets up a pretty decent range for Law, where he can play down for 2 keep out with one of the best down for 2s in the game, or do his nunchuck, and it's at a range as well, where it's kind of hard to punish, right? When you block here, I'm -13. You better have a long range punish here, right? And another thing it did, you know how Season 2, you used to be able to do while standing 4 on counter hit into wall splat. They removed that, and now while standing 4 on counter hit didn't give anything anymore. They did it right, I think, when they removed that, but they couldn't help themselves. So when they made this blue spark 13 frame startup, it means that yet again, on counter it here, he wall splats. So again, that while standing 4, that same while standing 4, where anyone gets +4 now, you're just looking at him on block, right? You're just looking at him. And if he counter hits you, you get wall splatted.
That's fucking retarded. I don't know, like, the only thing I can figure is the developers like certain characters and they just want to, like, they're literally playing the game online and they just want to do stupid shit with their favorite characters. That's the only thing I can figure.
into like 64 damage from a while standing 4. Already here, it's like, it's pretty absurd, the buffs. But then they couldn't help themselves. Everyone got a new move. Most characters got dog shit moves, but Law, who's already amazing, he was one of the biggest winners in this regard as well. He got a new homing button, which shuts down almost anything. Any situation where you...
The homing attacks are fucking stupid. It's a 3D fighter. It's so dumb. That, like, broke my fucking brain when I started playing this game online. Like, what is the point of having a 3D fighter where you can, like, dodge and sidestep when so many attacks are fucking homing? It literally just turns the game into a 3D fighter.
You
Or a
felt
2D
like,
fighter,
oh,
I mean.
maybe I can do something. Well, now you can't anymore. A big problem, but I did not explain where I talked about it.
And with one of the updates, they also, like, changed the way every fucking move works when it comes to, like, homing and what attacks, like, can be sidestepped and not. Like, you had to, like, relearn the whole fucking game. It was just fucking retarded.
In my video a little bit about Law, I gave you my thoughts on Season 3. One thing I did not mention that is crucial is that this character relies a lot on a full crouch mix. He has a 50-50 with a homing slide. He can do this. He can do this. You know how deadly he is from crouch, right? And I told you about while standing 4, an insane button. This new move he got, so again, a +1 on block, wall splats on natural hit, right? Homing button, very fast at 16 frames. It is also accessible from back turn, 1 frame faster by just pressing 1+2. Due to this being an upwards notation, it means he also has access to it from crouch. So even in crouch, he can do this button. Even from standing, you're like, this character shouldn't have this. You know, just shutting down at 16 frames, a step, you know, just wall splatting you into his damage. This being +1 on a character that has this jab, like counter hit wall splat G-clef, right? That +1 means a ton, considering this jab, right? And then this character that has all of this obscene stuff from crouch can now from crouch also do this move, a homing wall splat +1. Again, I told you about this interaction before, which is now toxic, right, to the blue spark. Pretty toxic now, right? There is a counterplay here where if you block Dragon Hammer, if you don't want to deal with the while standing 4+ frames on hit or block, you can step right here. But now he can from crouch after Dragon Hammer do this. So if you step right, you can get hit into the wall splatted and killed.
That's stupid.
If you do step right into block, which is the smartest thing, which pros would do, they'll still block this, and now they are, you know, -1 against Law. And again, you're sitting here and you're like, all of this combined, is this healthy for Law? Is this a fun character to play against? Is this a character that has noticeable counterplay? Is this...
Yeah, dude, especially if you're like a Kazuya main, it's just, you can't play the characters you want to play.
It's a character that rewards skill and people thinking. There's no execution anymore, and there's no strategy anymore. It is simply press buttons, and pretty much any button you press, it's a fucking win for you.
I don't know what the hell they're thinking. Again, the only thing I can figure is the developers have certain characters that they really like, and they're just buffing the shit out of them. I don't know, but it's like Tekken's gotten dumber and dumber. It's so fucking, like, you have to really like the game for whatever reason to keep playing online, but, like, it's just so fucking unfair with some of these characters. It's just not worth it, the kind of headache and frustration. Oh, man, one of these videos. Oh, steroids age your body, only 25. Why are people assuming it's the steroids aging him? Have you seen what the guy eats? This guy fucking eats 2 cheesecakes a day. You don't think that's going to age you? But then, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, it's the steroids. Like, buddy.
Have you heard about this cucked beta shit? Some countries and states want to force all operating systems to have age verification and then will force government ID verification and are deregulating laws for it.
I'm not going to bother watching the video. I've heard about all this. It's, yeah. Yeah, it's some dystopian horse shit. Hopefully it doesn't go through. I would figure too, like, hackers are probably gonna just circumvent it anyway. Thanks for the donation though, 3. And I mean, like, they're making the argument for Linux that much stronger. All I hear when I see this is, okay, well, I'm probably gonna end up switching to Linux. It's fucking stupid. Thanks for the donation though, 3.
Bro, 22. More like 22 years since his last divorce, or 22 years in prison. Jokes aside, this guy seems happy, but while everyone wants big muscles, not everyone can handle the big side effects. When people think about the
side effects from steroids for most people are very, very minor. They're like, again, the one hormone that you're going to start off with that seems to be the safest, most effective, you know, in terms of side effect profile, tolerability, that shit. Testosterone, you can look at the data. It's one of the most well-tolerated drugs ever fucking invented.
downsides of steroids, they mainly focus on heart problems or gyno, but not many worry about what happens to every steroid user.
Why did he use, like, Mike Menser here for heart problems? This guy was a crystal meth addict.
To every steroid user, premature aging. That's why you see so many athletes looking 10 years older than they actually are.
So, first of all, the Trent twins do not look 20 years older than they actually are. I also like how he uses pictures of Larry Wheels, like one where he's in a more neutral lighting situation, and this where it's like really harsh, like flash photography downlighting when he's like bulked up and his face is puffier.
Aging. That's why you see so many athletes looking 10 years older than they actually are. Or, if you're unlucky, even 30 years older. You might have seen this freak of nature already. His name is Andrei Smaev, and his lifts are incredible. Inhuman strength in calisthenics, bench press and arm wrestling. But what really makes him fascinating is how old he looks. In just 4 years he aged 6 times that. So what exactly caused it?
Buddy, he's eating 2 cheesecakes a day. Just look at the guy's diet. What, like, why is that ignored? It's like, it's just insane. Like, he uploads the shit to his channel, by the way. Like, I mean, this was just crazy. The full day
Good
of
morning,
eating.
guys. We haven't recovered a bit from yesterday. We didn't sleep so well.
Dude, he like drank this entire fucking bottle of grape juice when he wakes up in the fucking morning. Takes like 80 different fucking supplements. He has a really nice, cute kitty. Oh my goodness. So wrinkly. Wow, that's special. Look how wrinkly. Yeah, then he literally had like fucking 20 potatoes with like cheese and everything in here. That's like his first actual meal. Then he goes to the fucking grocery store looking like an absolute fucking freak. People don't even know what the fuck they're looking at. This is what he ate in the day. This isn't like a week's worth of groceries. He ate 2 fucking cheesecakes in this single day. Like, along with like Fanta, he likes snacking on these like weird baby food things for some reason.
You've been talking to Pat for over a month now every day, calling her sweetie and saying you love her, and she hasn't sent you a single nude. That's a red flag right there, bud. She's going to be one of those types. I see.
Buddy, for one thing, I'm not going to pressure anybody to send nudes. I get it. Like, especially since she's a lawyer, she works professionally, I get it. That doesn't mean she hasn't sent me some sugar, all right? Like, she knows I do OnlyFans and stuff, and I'm more kind of out there. I'm not gonna, I don't have a problem with it, but she sends me some sugar. Thanks for the donation, 21st. Like, he ate an entire loaf of bread, like a fucking another whole box of fucking juice. Like, it's unhinged. And then he just, like, eats these constantly. There he goes, like, just snacking on that shit fucking constantly. Then he, like, does this weird, crazy fucking workout. Like, then, like, the cheesecake. He has, like, cheesecake, goes on a cheesecake fucking nap, then wakes up, eats, like, several cans of fucking canned chicken, I think. And then he finishes, like, the rest of his fucking cheesecake. Literally, he eats 2 fucking cheesecakes, an entire loaf of bread, 2 boxes of fucking juice, eats like 4 or 5 of those weird fruit baby things, 4 or 5 cans of fucking canned chicken. Like, this guy's diet is fucking absurd. And then they're like, why is he aging? It must be the steroids, because, like, eating that ridiculous amount of fucking food wouldn't make you age faster, right?
Pretty sure that's unconstitutional as fuck. BTW, some Linux distros are cucking to it when law will be amended and big Linux corpus can challenge it but don't want to.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, it's, yeah, I've seen some of this shit. It's ridiculous. Just fucking ridiculous. I don't know how the fuck they can possibly implement that into law. That seems completely unconstitutional. Thanks for the donation, 3.
There are 3 main reasons why it happens. The first main effect is facial puffiness. Faces tell stories, and with steroid use, your face will reveal it all. The body may look strong and muscular, but the face becomes round, swollen, and wrinkly. But how does it happen? There are few reasons for that. Steroids change how the body manages water. Water retention means the body keeps extra fluid under the skin. When this fluid collects in the cheeks, around the jaw, and under the eyes, the face begins to look swollen. Why does that make someone look older? Because swelling hides the sharp lines that make a face look young, like a clear jawline and defined cheekbones. Steroids also affect where fat is stored. Fat redistribution means fat moves from one part of the body to another. Instead of sitting in the hips or legs, some fat may collect in the face and neck.
I haven't seen any evidence that you end up having like a fatter face on steroids. It's just fluid retention.
When fat builds up in the cheeks, it pushes the skin outward and makes the face look rounder and heavier. Without visible bone structure, the face loses the firm shape often associated with youth. Steroids can build muscle even without training, and that effect is not limited to the body. The face also contains muscle, so the result is a constant full or swollen look. Many steroid users have a lean muscular body, but
dude, this is Lee Priest eating like 5 buckets of KFC chicken a day. Like, guess what? If you stay lean, your face is also gonna like look lean, including if you're on fucking gear. Like, give me a fucking break.
But a puffy face. This contrast makes the aging effect even more noticeable. Collagen and the skin support system weaken. The skin stops snapping.
Steroids do not necessarily reduce collagen synthesis and make the collagen in your skin worse. That's a whole big complicated thing. Generally speaking, most dudes on steroids are gonna have better skin.
Can usually be reversed by stopping steroid use, but not always.
Like, this is just fucking so, like, completely different lighting situations. They're clearly, like, these are clearly different circumstances too, where the guy's like leaner in this photo, probably eating cleaner. He has a fucking mustache here and shit. It's filmed at a different angle too. Like, no shit, if you look up, like, oh, look, you got a double chin and shit, but then when you're filming down, you're gonna look better. Like, it's stupid.
If you have been abusing steroids for decades, don't expect a complete recovery. But if you just started, you still have time to think carefully. A single change that makes the biggest difference in how old someone looks. A person can have clear skin and a strong jaw, but when the hairline starts moving back, the face suddenly looks testosterone. Some of it converts into another hormone called DHT, which plays a major role in hair loss. So what does DHT do? It attacks the hair follicles, the tiny structures in the skin where hair grows. Think of
this is pretty much entirely genetic. You're going to have a certain like androgen receptor density in the hair follicle. And if you have the gene for hair loss, you are going to lose hair. Steroids might accelerate it, but you are just going to lose your hair. There's nothing you can do about it. If you don't have that gene, you can blast fucking gear like you can't fucking believe, and your hair is going to stay there. Vigorous Steve has never taken any drugs to protect against hair loss. He still has a full head of hair. He's not balding at all, and he's taken some of the harshest compounds for hair loss, like Masteron.
Think of them like small factories producing hair strands, when DHT could begin at 20 or 25. Steroids don't...
This is more misinformation. If you're going to lose your hair, you're going to start noticing recession by the time you're 25. Nobody, like, this doesn't happen. So nobody starts going bald at 40, but then, like, they go on steroids. It like makes it happen at 25. It doesn't work that way. If you're going to go bald, you're going to start noticing recession by the time you're in your mid 20s.
Hair at 40 could begin at 20 or 25. Steroids don't create the genetic tendency for baldness, but they can strongly accelerate it. Does everyone on steroids lose their hair? Not necessarily. Genetics still matters. Some people have follicles that are more sensitive to DHT, others less. But when steroids raise hormone levels far above normal, the risk increases significantly for many users. And once hair follicles fully shrink, the change is often permanent. Treatments can slow hair loss, but bringing dead follicles back as the face looks is skin damage. Healthy skin is one of the clearest signs of youth. When skin is smooth and free of marks across the face, it becomes especially noticeable. But why do steroids cause acne? The main reason is hormone imbalance. Anabolic steroids raise levels of androgens, hormones that control many male traits but also affect the skin.
Estrogen is a huge factor for acne.
Inside the skin are small structures called sebaceous glands. These glands produce oil or sebum, which normally protects and moisturizes the skin. But when androgen levels become very high, the glands overproduce oil. Too much oil creates problems. The reason acne ages the face is not the pimples themselves, it's the scars they leave behind. Severe acne can damage skin quality. Young skin is smooth.
Well, we know why Sam Sulek has acne. It's because his diet is absolutely fucking horrendous. His skin cleared up completely when he was dieting and eating clean, and then immediately after the show, when he went back on his like stupid retard diet where he's drinking like tons of dairy, eating donuts, processed sugar, he started breaking out again. So again, are you blaming, like, why are we blaming steroids and not his stupid, ridiculous fucking diet? Like, we saw his dumbass day of eating when he was working with Fawad. He had like, what, 2 fucking boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts, drank a gallon of fucking milk, had an entire box of like fucking sugary cereal. You don't think that's going to fucking cause acne, but then like you blame the fucking steroids he's taking? Like it's just fucking dumb. It's like if you were to jump off a building and then like shoot yourself in the head, and it's like, oh, well, what killed him? Like, obviously it was the gun. Well, he would have fucking like dropped to his death fucking anyway.
Scarred skin becomes uneven and rough. The texture changes, the surface loses its glow, and the face can start to look worn out and older. Even if the acne eventually disappears, you're left with...
Like, buddy, he's also so ridiculously fucking lean. You can see the bones in his face. No shit, you're gonna fucking look older like that.
Scars that can last for years, if damaged, and unlike to handle. Research
so this is just like dumbass horse shit. My sister asked me, what if everything you research about steroids is wrong and it does more harm than good? You could say that for anything. What if everything you researched about exercise is wrong and it does more harm than good? What if everything you researched about nutrition is wrong and it does more harm than good? Okay, great. What does any of that mean? Anybody could be wrong about anything. Just stupid.
What's up, guys? Main Mans, we here, hoping you're all doing awesome as always, and welcome back to the
I really like King's costume in Tekken 2. It's really cool.
Beautiful Tekken 2. And King's stage here, his beautiful church. Don't you miss when stages actually had connections to the characters, you know? Gave them a little bit more personality, you know, fleshed them out. Why can't we do this in the modern games? But anyway, this is gonna be a very special video. I'm gonna demonstrate the legendary octopus stretch. This was a secret move that King had, and it was basically a throw that would kill you immediately. There was no way to survive it. It's the single most damaging throw in Tekken history. It does 80 damage on its own. And I'm gonna demonstrate it. This move is one of the reasons I fell in love with Tekken. I mean, I fell in love already in Tekken 1, but in Tekken 2, discovering all of King's hidden, you know, they were not in his command list, all of his chain throws and this technique, it was incredible. And I still remember, I shit you not, I still remember when I was 11 years old, or I was 10, I don't remember, I think I was 11, when I saw this move for the first time. I had my friend over, we were playing the game, we were playing against the CPU on the hardest difficulty, and out of the blue, the CPU hit this on me, and I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
So
to me,
cool.
It looked like King's Cobra
I don't know why they
clutch,
didn't bring
I
the
think it's called,
shit
his
back.
back throw here, but he did it from the front, and it looked a bit different. But what really stood out was the damage, because it was like Thanos, you know, doing this, snapping his fingers. I just died immediately, and I was just mind blown. And I even called a video game support hotline for like $2 per minute and asked them, how do you do King's Throw when he kills you immediately? And they sent me actually a big fucking document with all of the moves, and I learned how to do it as an 11-year-old. But yeah, sorry for yapping away with lots of main man trivia here. I'm going to demonstrate the move. So it was kind of weird, because this was not a throw, you know, that was done like this, you know, from standing, yeah, like a typical throw. This was actually a throw that came out of a string. So for example, you know that King has the Ali kicks, right? So I have counter hit on, as you can see. Without counter hit, all you can get is free kicks. That's it. And at any point, you can mix the low. Oh, no, you can only do this on counter hit. My bad. Okay. Without counter hit, all you can do is free kicks in a row. That's it. On the first kick, you can actually follow that with a mid. So there's some form of mix-up there. But if you get a counter hit, you can, after free kicks, go into a mid, or after free kicks, go into a 2 additional lows. So that is actually a mix-up. There's no low parry in this game. So if they eat the first kick on counter hit, the second kick is guaranteed, but after that they can block. So they actually have to guess here, mid, or you going for another low. So there is some form of mix-up here. But in most of the time, if people knew about the octopus stretch, which I'm gonna demonstrate now, they would always eat the mid here, because I shit you not, if you duck there and eat the 4th low, and I input in between the 3rd kick and the 4th kick, you input 2, 1, 3, 4 in sequence in between the kicks.
That is so cool.
And that's that. 117 damage, max health is 110. So this is actually...
If I go and test, how can I prevent it causing extreme horniness? I don't know if there's really much you can do about that. You can... Estrogen also has an effect on sex drive. Sometimes you can modulate estrogen a bit. But yeah, I don't know if there's much you can do. It tends to normalize after a little while. You might have some extreme horniness for a bit, but then it just goes more normal after like a month or two. I have like some really weird shit going on with the skin on my back of my neck. Probably want to talk to a dermatologist about that.
Overkill. So this is the legendary octopus stretch, which he lost after Tekken 2. It would never come back again. And to me, it's so sad because it's just so goddamn epic. And of course, it was hard to make this work on competent players, but it was a mix-up here. Are you gonna do the mid uppercut? Or are you gonna go for the, well, move that kills them? The Felt King.
Alright. I am going to have a anime watching date with Pat. Me and Pat are going to enjoy some anime together, so I'm going to end the stream now and hang out with her. But I should be on tomorrow night, around the same time, so I'll see you all then. Hope you all had fun. Big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. Really appreciate it. La 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 and whatnot. Probably gonna watch Beastars. But I'll see you all tomorrow. And enjoy the rest of your night. Sweet dreams. I'll see you all tomorrow.